Shalom, 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 shalom. First and foremost, what I'm saying? Shabbat shalom, you know what I'm saying, on this blessed Sabbath, you know what I'm saying, day. All praise be to the Most High, Yahweh, Shem Mashiach, Yahweh Shah, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. I am your brother, Jeremiah Bun Yahweh. This is D.O.C, man, the Department of Corrections. This is Code Media, where we cut with the truth, man. Today, today we about to talk about when we rule, because for years, throughout the via the educational the system and things that were set up in these days, you know what I'm saying, in the days before, they taught us that, basically our history just started with slavery. You know, we was just slaves.
Mm-hmm.
We was just nobody. You know what I'm saying, for real. So for years we've been taught that. It's been taught in the colleges and then in the movies, you know what I'm saying, and all that. But today we're about to clear some of that up, you know what I'm saying, and to let you know that we were those people that was in rulership. We fell out of that grace, and the elder today is about to speak, you know what I'm saying, on why and how and why, you know what I'm saying, we went through those things. Tonight, you know what I'm saying, well, today, Shalaka, we got a special guest, man. So I wanna welcome, you know what I'm saying, Elder Karash, you know what I'm saying, to the channel. Um this gonna be a good one right here, man. So keep, you know what I'm saying, keep your eyes, you know what I'm saying, keep your eyes on the screen for those who's watching, and keep your ears open for those who's listening. Get your notebooks out, get your Bibles out, get your highlighters. You know what you need to do. Sit down and let's get some of this real history when we rule. Okay?
That's
All right, man. Shout out,
God,
everybody introduce yourself. Introduce yourself.
This is Yaquan Boynia Howard with the D.O.C.
This is Yawasop with the D.O.C. West Coast. Shabbat Shalom.
It's Brother Karash here with coming out of the original Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge in New York until 1995. Now, I'm down pretty much with HODC and the Mashara Yasharala.
Khan.
Good,
All crazy.
good to have you. Good to have you, Elder. Good to have you, Elder. All right, y'all go ahead, do your thing, man. Do your thing, man. For real. Let's explain to the people, you know what I'm saying? Because we don't have no type of, one thing about the elders is that we don't have nothing to be proud of. You know what I'm saying? Our people don't have nothing to be proud of, but they was taught to be, to feel like they're lesser. Therefore, they acting like
Right.
that. You know what I'm saying? If we knew how great we are, you know what I'm saying? Deuteronomy 7:6 says, you know what I'm saying, that we above all people that's on the face of the earth. But if we knew that was talking about us, if we knew better, we'd do better, should I say, you know what I'm saying? But y'all go ahead and do y'all thing, man. Shalom.
Khan. So, uh, when we start in the New Testament with the book of Matthew, we understand that the Israelites were subjugated. We were subjugated to the Romans. And we also know that right before that, the Greeks had ruled us. So you hear things, in history that black folk ruled Europe. Some people believe it, some people don't, because we were never taught that. We were never taught that. But the information is out, and this is why we have the special guest, the Elder Karash, to talk about that a little bit. And because the question is, after the Roman Empire fell, who took over, right? And what the thing is, they won't tell you that we took over. They'll tell you, they never tell you anything good about us. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm gonna ask Yawasap to read for me is how we lost Jerusalem, and then eventually the elder's gonna come in and talk about how we took over. So with that, Yawasap, give me Matthew 27 and start at 22.
God. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 27 and 22. Pilate saith unto them, What shall I do with Yahweh Shai, which is called Hamashiach. They all said unto him, let him be crucified. And the governor said, why? What evil hath he done? But they cried out more, saying, let him be crucified. When Pilate saw that he could prevail nothing, but that rather a tumult was made, he took water and washed his hands before the multitude, saying, I am innocent of the blood of this person. See ye to it. Then
Keep going.
answered all the people and said, his blood be on us and on our children.
So this is Negroes for you. You know, who else could this be talking about but us? We turned on our own Savior. You had a lot of Jews who were, I would say, cool Negroes who had a lot of social status, right? They didn't want to lose their status in the Roman being captives of Rome. Just like you have political leaders like Tim Scott, Al Sharpton, stuff like that, who were comfortable in captivity. So at the end of the day, read that one more time, verse 25, Yawasap.
Okay. Matthew 27 and 25. Then
Yep.
then answered all the people and said, let his blood be on us and on our children.
And that was about the stupidest thing people have ever said in their life. They said, let the blood of our own Savior. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that was a bad move. And what happened after that, about 35 years later, 30-something years later, you had the destruction of Jerusalem, right? Let's talk about that real quick, and then we're going to let the elder do his thing. Give me Luke chapter 21 and start at 20. Luke 21 and 20. We're going to get the elder in a couple of minutes to explain a lot of the history that we were never taught in school.
This is the book Luke. This is the book of Luke, chapter 21 and verse 20.
Yeah.
And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh.
Stop.
Then
Stop. So Yahushua, this is written in red letters. Even though our ancestors turned on him, he still gave Negroes a way out. So he prophesied. He said, when you see Jerusalem compassed with armies, know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Because saying, let the blood be on our hands and our children's, that's exactly what happened. The blood was on their hands and their children's hands with the destruction of Jerusalem between 65 and 70 AD. Keep going.
Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter therein.
So this was an escape route. Yahushua, the Most High, why Yahushua had enough love for his people, us, to give us an escape route, which was to flee into Africa, basically, where we ended up, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi in West Africa, right? Keep going.
For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled.
So, like I said, that was a huge mistake to say, let the blood be on our hands and our children's. Keep going.
But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon his people.
Because there was basically a decree, say, kill all the Negroes. Kill them all. Man, woman, baby, Like similar, if you look at what was it, First Samuel 15, when the Most High told us to destroy Amalek. You know, similarly, Esau, the Romans, made out a decree to kill all the Jews, right? So, Elder, we suffered under, you know, the Roman Empire kept going until Septimius Severus, Con. Elder
What's that?
Karash.
To who?
The Roman Empire went down with Septimius Severus, correct?
Yeah, it wasn't the whole empire, but that was when blacks, Israelite began to rule it. Before that, it was white folk. That's what that is. We took over the empire under Septimius Severus in 193 AD. But I wanted to get 193 AD. That's when the black emperor Septimius Severus was under white emperors, Max Marcus and Pontiacs and Giuliani. These guys were white boys. Three white boys were fighting to be emperor at that time, and they killed each other, or you know, their bodyguards killed them, and there was a power vacuum. So the next ones to be emperor at that time were the generals, and generals were over their armies in different parts of the empire. The empire would, you know, had about 5,000 men. That's a whole what you call that. It had 5,000 men each. So the closest emperor to get there to restore order, the closest general to get there to restore order was Septimius Severus. He was right across the water, ruling Africa. The Roman, not all of it, but the Roman Empire, North Africa. Septimius Severus was over that. There's a book you can get, 1947, called Caesar and Christ, and it tells you that Septimius Severus spoke with a Shemitic accent. So you know they kind of telling you he was a black Jew. As a Roman, he was a Roman general and running Africa. So when he took time to get word across. So the boat came across, let him know the deal. So he took his centurions out there, and he was the first emperor to get there. And he came into the city, and then they made him emperor, you know, without too much of a fight. That's how he took it. He was already known up in there, you know, as a general. Same way you got blacks, you know, all up from slavery, and now we're mayors and all that's, you know, we're ruling places under the white man. The white man runs when you get higher, but blacks are allowed to come up now. So we were coming up all of the empire, man. We was, you know, in the armies. Same thing we doing now, we was doing then. That's why this is modern Rome. And Rome was not just a bunch of white boys beating everybody up. They had all kind of allies. Sometimes the Romans didn't even go fight. They would just go tell another place, say, hey, look, I want you to send an army over there with your men and take them out. So you might have an army of Arabs, Israelites, and a white boy running it, and they'll go and attack somebody. You know, that's what Romans were. The same way it is today. And the white man's army is mainly whites, blacks, Puerto Ricans, and then some Asians, some Arabs, you know, some Africans. That's how the army was then. They always show you a bunch of white guys doing everything. No, the white man never took over everything like that. You know, he's always been allies. Now he don't have to do that because he got weapons. You know, he can just send a drone over there and take you out. Because Moses had to give him that sword, which is weaponry. You know, because he can't go out there on a field of battle with an army and really win. You know, right there anymore. He never did it before. We won his armies, his wars for him on the ground. Not most of the time, it was us or a weapon we made for him that he could win, or another nation that he told to go there. But so, coming from, let's get John 17:12. Started off with a scripture from what Yahushua said when he was with his disciples. John 17:12, and then we're going to get Luke 10:1-3. We're going to get John 17:12 to start it off. What Yahushua was setting up before his fall. It was about 40 years later when they destroyed Jerusalem. you know, and Christ was telling them, let them know the deal. Same way they told him when he was going to die, he knew the future. He knew he could talk about right now. The Lord showed him all the future, where the tribe's going to be. Even Jacob, our father, knew the future. That's why I wrote Genesis 49.
Mm-hmm.
He seen all the tribes in slavery, how the Indians fell and the blacks fell, and he writes it down, but in just points of interest that we would know living here. You see, and shows it their characteristics, their migrations. Genesis 49 can only be broken down with the remnant of the Israelites that were brought to America and were already here, right, and became slaves. There were blacks and Indians here. The pictures don't lie. They
Right.
showing all of that was Judah and Israel. There's blacks already here. Some coming. Indians were here. They came to 10 tribes, but then some of the other tribes joined them, coming from Africa, coming from Europe, and even throughout the history, because they knew this was here. Some brothers from Spain was coming back and forth. Some stayed here. That's why you see those blacks in America. You know, so all the blacks that brought here were not, you know, coming on ships. Then in slavery, the white man was shipping a lot of Indians off their islands in the Gulf by ship, moving Ephraim over there and Cuba over there. And then brothers in Peru were being shipped to slave marts along the Pacific coast, out there in Hawaii and all that, called the Blackbirders. So it shows you the
Mm.
scriptures, the curses link up. When you break down and expand Deuteronomy 28:68 by ships, it's really all the tribes that was getting, not just Judah, Benjamin, Levi from Africa, but I got a book
Right.
it's called Pictorial History of Slavery by Langston Hughes. Pictorial History of Slavery by Langston Hughes, where when the whites were taking us over in Europe, they had ship ports. So they shipped out from our defeated kingdoms of Spain and Ireland and France and England. They had ports to take the Israelites who were being conquered and ship them over here from Ireland, Scotland, Lisbon, Liverpool, Nantes, and Spain. You see, and so there were ships from there, ships from Africa, because when the Moors, who were Israelites, who converted to Islam, they fled to Africa. So they knew they was there. So it's those Moors and the Israelites were already there that fled in 70 AD. They were there. And then you had Israelites who were shipped all in the islands, because all the islands used to be nothing but Ephraim, Manasseh, and Simeon on Barbados and the Leeward Islands. It was all Indians, but now the white men took them off, shipped them there to slavery there. And then blacks who were there also in Brazil were shipped across the Caribbean, all in the islands. And then there was some shipping going on. That's a whole different story. But just showing you, we read that about the ships. Brother tried to
Right.
say that the slave ships don't link with the Indians here, but they were getting shipped by, shipped and went in slavery. They were the first slaves here,
Well,
1492. And then 1600, here we go. The natives
yeah.
here. So all
I'm
the
sorry.
curses link up to us, man. You just got to know the little histories and read those books. They'll tell you right there, you
Right.
know, in the book. But they won't tell you none of these universities and schools. So let's read that, John 17:12.
God, this is the book of John 17 and 12. While I was with them in the world, I kept them in my name. Those that gave thou, Shlakia, those that thou gavest me, I have kept, and none of them is lost, but the son of perdition, that the
Mm-hmm.
scripture might be fulfilled.
Yeah. So that's showing you all the disciples that Yahweh Shah taught. He made sure they were the ones that being taught. Now he admits, I lost one, and the son of perdition was Judas, right? He lost one, but the Most High showing you can be replaced, because he was replaced with Matthias. That's in Acts first chapter, and you read about there was 11, and they cast lots, and there was two men, and Matthias came out, so he took Judas's place, brother named Matthias. So he hasn't lost none of them. And also to expand that, let's get Luke 10, 1-3, all the people they taught. You can expand that. We are the children of those that believe when Christ and disciples were teaching and healing. We're the children of them. Because I always tell brothers, there's no new people being saved. There's no new people being unsaved. Like you mentioned earlier, let the blood be upon our children. Well, them brothers getting killed and brothers wicked and shot in the back of the head, them was probably the children of the ones that said that, because they're getting jammed up. They don't believe the scriptures, the hypocrites. Those are Pharisees' kids, or just anybody who didn't believe of Israel, who the disciples taught. They were there. They didn't believe them. All those people coming against him. But the Jews that believe, we got to be their descendants, because that's what they was praying for, is that, Lord, let me be saved. Saved for what? In the regeneration of your generations, your children will come back, and we're already destined to be saved, but we don't know. Brothers go off. Christ had a Judas. So you don't want to be a Judas, you in and then you out. You want to stay on this and be the ones that aren't going to be lost. Okay. But in the heavenly world, it's already ordained from the beginning who's going to be saved, who's going to hear the disciples, and who ain't. I'm going to show you that. So read Luke 10, 1-3.
God, this is the book of Luke, chapter 10 and 1. After these things, the Lord appointed over 70 also, and sent them 2 and 2 before his face into every city and place, whither he himself would come. Therefore said he unto them, the harvest truly is great, but the laborers are few. Pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest, that he would send forth laborers into the harvest. Go your ways, behold, I send you forth as lambs amongst wolves.
Okay, that's third verse. So it shows you he had the 12. He also had 3. And he had 3, which is Peter, James, and John. Those are 3 he was more tight with, and they're the ones he brought up to see the transfiguration. And then after that's 12, then he had 70. Don't you know Moses did the same thing? He had 70 elders back then. That's Exodus 24. You can read it later. And he had 3 main men. Okay, always have somebody that's going to take your place, okay, or back you up if you ain't there. So it was Moses, his brother, and Joshua. Okay, and then Christ had Peter, James, and John. And Moses also had 12 other men, which Joshua set up. He had 12 men go out and spy the land. Okay, and then he had 70 elders. You see, so Christ set that whole thing up. Moses was more the earthly, this is an earthly war, because all these men he set up under them, Moses set up, they had officers under them of 10, 15, 20, and not 20, but 5,000, 50. You know how we set it up. Moses did that because these men were actually over these men, because the nation was free, and these men actually had responsibility over 10 men, 500, 1,000. They were doing it for real. Everybody, it was warriors. These are all men from 20 years to 50. Okay, you can sign on if you want to go after 50, but 50 you can kind of retire. So it tells you right there that now here's the carnal army, but now we're in a spiritual army. Christ had a spiritual army. He had the same order, but we don't see our warriors. We don't see them, but everybody you wake up might have been somebody that was in the army back then. You see, some forth for laborers to gather the army of Christ. He calls us soldiers in 2 Timothy's 2. If you're a soldier, you strive lawfully, and you don't entangle yourself with the affairs of life. But this is a spiritual battle for the minds of people, you see. And the church and the churches, these are bases. And we are recruiters for those who the Most High saved coming out of Egypt. We are those people coming out of Egypt. But everything goes full circle. Christ is the Moses of the day. It's just that, we don't have an army we can go and call and go to war, but it's the spirit. Most High gonna activate the armies when the time comes. Our job is just to go recruit and then, hold your posts until the time comes. So send forth laborers from the 70, he sent them out in twos. And so they went out in different parts of the world, Europe, Spain, Africa. Some came over here. You read that, they went all over the place, dropping the word, getting it on them. But now, did they save anybody? No, not at that time carnally, but he saved their minds so they can be awake today. You see? And we are the descendants of them awakening today. Okay? That's what it was, because his laborers are few. 70, you got 12, this. But now this word getting out, and then you read Daniel where in the end, knowledge shall increase. How's it increasing? It's technology. After year 2000, when the phones came out and the computers and all the shows, before that, it was just us in the camp, and it was just ICPK. The brother in Boston, that was ICPK too. That's why he's doing this thing. Wasn't no IUIC back then. It was just 3 camps, at first when I came in 1988. In August 1988, I came, recruited me. I used to watch them on the street.
That's right.
And then there were only 3 schools with the main school, but they went out and started, Philly. That started in 1980, I think 81, before I came in. And then you had all the camps. There were camps in all the boroughs, right? But then Ariella went out and started California in the late 90s. It started out Arizona and all of that stuff. Tahar opened up Boston and Connecticut. It was all in the mid-90s after I came. I watched all these schools grow. The IUIC came like in 2000 after the split. So you see how they're sending brothers out. But get Matthews 25, 31 to 34. And then we're going to go straight up into September Severus. I know that's what you're waiting on, right?
Yeah.
I want to get Elder, go ahead and cook, man. It's a pleasure having you, man. All praise be to the Most High, man. This is a blessing, man. Go ahead and cook, man. Go ahead and do your thing, man. No,
Okay,
you know
so
what I'm saying?
like the water, bro.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm a student at this. I'm a student at this point, God. No, God.
Okay.
All right.
That's how we came up. The elders speak. You just take notes. Got a good question, because it's all gonna come out. It's just that Most High give us little milk, little meat, little milk, some fruit, whatever. But it's all going. But then we have to digest it. Don't ever run with the knowledge. I know some brothers. I was teaching them, well, brother, what's this? What's that? Well, hold on, brother. Let me finish this first part. This milk. You want to run to the meat, and right in there. Just hold on. You'll get that. Some brothers want that meat, and they ain't even got no teeth. So this is one at a time. It's all good. What?
Hey, Shalaka, just real quick. I remember the last conversation that we had. You know what I'm saying? The first conversation when you were speaking. You know what I'm saying? And you said that brothers is they choking off the milk.
Yeah.
Man, that stuck with me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You were saying they choking off the milk, man. You know what I'm saying? So
let alone
when
the
it comes
meat.
to this meat, man, yeah, right. It's right. It's gotta be hard to digest because brothers is
Because the
choking
milk
off the
is
milk,
deep.
man. Yeah.
I mean, what I just showed you. What I showed y'all just now, you read it all before, but I know when I came in, I never linked up Yahweh Shai's ministry with Moses' ministry. He was doing the same thing. He was on a spiritual war, and then Moses was more on a physical war. You see, so you can see that link up. Moses had 70 men, Christ had 70 men. We just read it. Christ had 12, Moses had 12. Actually, Joshua had 12 men go spy the land out. Of each tribe took a man. Here's your 12 did. I can show you where Paul had 12 disciples. They was all going back to the scriptures and getting these armies together in these areas. So you see that link up. Moses had 3 main men. Christ had 3 main men. You know, Christ was on spiritual warfare. Our weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but spiritual, to the taking down and changing imaginations. You see, these are weapons. So learn these weapons, you know, right here. First learn a sword, and then later on you'll learn, you know, gun, and you'll learn how to clean your gun. You got to go right on through it, you know. Then later on you might want to learn to be a sharpshooter. Then you learn to, you know, shoot bigger guns. But we got to let's start with this 380 right now, you know, and with that, you know,
Yeah,
it's
God, right,
just
God,
as deadly.
God,
It's just as
God.
deadly, you know. Then you start learning bombs and all kind of higher level weapons that can do more carnage, you know. But yeah,
Yeah,
Matthew
yeah,
24,
God.
25, 31 to 34. These all link up right here with how the Most High is waking us up and the way it's doing.
This is the book of
That's
Matthew.
definitely. Go ahead.
This
Oh,
is
my
the
bad.
book of
Go ahead.
Matthew, chapter 25 and 31. When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he set up the throne of his glory. And before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divided his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on his left hand. Then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, Come, ye blessed of my father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world.
You see, prepared for the Israelites from the foundation of the world. I mean, this is already planned out in the heavenly world. Before the Most High even made the planet, he planned Israel is going to lead, Esau is going to be the wicked, he'll lead for a while. Everything been planned. Most High's not making this up as you go along. That's why he can prophesy. That's why Christ prophesied, because it was already planned. He's seen it happen, and if it don't happen, Yahweh Shai gonna make it happen. Prophecy will not be, Most High don't make more mistakes. And Yahweh Shai knew his, imagine knowing you got to teach for 3 years, wake up a certain amount of people, and then you got to die. And you got to go by the scriptures already written. So, you know, Yahweh Shai knew the scriptures. He had to do this. Judas had to do his thing. He had to be there right on time on Passover. He had to stay on that cross and resurrect 3 days. That was his script. He kept telling him, look, I'm going to go to Jerusalem. I'm going to do this and that. And he had to do it and finish it in 3 years. He started when he was 30 and he died when he was 33. So, so you're seeing the sheep and the goats. You can start with our nation first, because we got some goats that got to go. But then they can go into Israelites from the other nations. They're the goats when you go to that level. But salvation starts at home first. That's why scriptures tell you, and I think 1 Peter 4:17, the Most High going to start at his house, cleaning house. See, so I got to say that those goats, just like Moses had to get Judas out, we got a whole lot of Judases. So that first is your nation. Then it's going to go to the Most High going to divide the Israelites, the sheep. Matthews 15:24, are not sent into the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Christ said of his own mouth. Then the goats, you can go to Daniel 8:21. The rough goat are the Greeks, the white boys, and all people that's of them. But their first kingdom, when the white man really took over and whites took over everybody in the Middle East, was Alexander the Great. That's him, you see. And their descendants came out of them. Okay, then the Romans came out of them. So I'm linking it right back to Rome. So Most High going to divide the sheep from the goat. You're going to see when the angels come, so a lot of brothers, this go back to 2/3 too. The 2/3 are those goats, those Israelites. They dying as we speak. You see them dying all kind of way. And the 1/3 is the Israelites that are destined to wake up as we speak and on that day. The ones like us waking up now, we're wake. The 1/3 is waking up now, and the 2/3 is dying as we speak. He's just going to finish it all up when the angels come. He's going to finish to show up, you know. But right now they dying as we speak, as we are awakening every day. You wakening someone up. Laborers are few, but the harvest is many. So all of it. And then the Bible says when 144,000 are awake, then you're going to see this thing really step up, and it's close. That's why you see what's going on in the Middle East. That's where the third world war is going to begin. It's not going to be all in one day. You're just going to see that, and you're going to see Russia come in. You might see a state fall. You know, one of the cities just fall. It's not going to be all in one day. When the final battle comes, it's going to take an hour. But the Lord said it's going to be, you know, you see wars and rumors of wars, but the end is not yet, because it could go down tomorrow. It's all set up now to go down. But are the 144,000 awake? The Lord said, hold back the four winds until the Most High has sealed 144,000, which is 12,000 from each tribe of Israel. Men, these are all men. He's getting his cabinet together. He got 70, he got 12, he got 3. Now here the other, you know, Democrats and Republicans, if you want to call it. But you don't call them, man. I'm just saying this is his governing group of men that he's gathering from all Israelites tribes. Okay. So now this isn't talking about this is just talking about men. Now to link that up, Hosea 1, 10 and 11 says Israel shall be gathered and assign himself one head. That's talking about prophecy of Christ when he comes to then it said they should be as the sand of the sea and cannot number. So the 144,000, some brothers get confused, only 144,000 of us going to be saved. No, it's going to be millions. That's right. That 1/3 of women, other men, women and children. That can't be numbered. So we can't use Revelation 7 to say 144,000, only 12,000 Negroes, 12,000 Ephraim, 12,000. No, that's just the men. This is the warriors and diplomats and all these people, the Most High, his governing body. That when they're awake, you're going to really start see things happening even more than they are. This is just showing you how close we are. It ain't going to be another 400 years or nothing. You know, it could happen tomorrow. It could happen next month, next year. I ain't making no dates. We learned that lesson. No dates for me. Just, you know, Bible tells you no one knows, not even an angel. So how am I going to know? How you going to know if angels don't know? Christ don't know. Christ up there girded looking at the Father like, you ready? Father's like this. The only one knows is the Father when he going to say, okay, Christ, go. You know,
go.
So
yeah, right. Yeah.
So we have to just keep the faith, man. Have it in your mind every day. Like, what if he comes next week? What would you do? And that's walking in the spirit. And you just do things. Because what if he coming next week? You see how many Israelites come out the woodwork, step up their game. Everybody gonna be doing that. If you really know he's coming 7 days, you're gonna see brothers coming up fake. Like, I'm gonna be wicked until Friday, and then I'm gonna stop. No, you're gonna start now. You know, when he coming in fake, you know when he coming. So Most High doing it now, so we freely convert and freely practice and rehearse the righteous acts. Just get right every day. You know, take the easiest things, start with that. Some harder things, we ain't going to do nothing until we come. It's just what we got to do. We're still working on ourselves, but work on the little things. No one's forcing a pork chop sandwich in your mouth. That's a sin. We eating food that we shouldn't eat, then we can't control it. But don't go down and say, well, okay, I'm going to go down and make a sandwich, and I'll bless it, I'm under grace. No, man, you don't have to go down and buy that. You know you shouldn't do it. Don't buy it. That's what the grace is for. If you just happen to be eating and you know, at a cookout and you eating some greens and you take a bite, like, what the hell? And you see a little pork in there, like, oh man, I should ask. They do that to you, man. It happened to me one time. I was eating. I said, so here's some greens, here's some chicken. Okay, I can eat that because they was cooking ribs and everything over there. I was eating it, you know, like 2 bites, and I looked in that pot, and there's a little piece of pork in there. Like, oh man,
you know how black folks cook. You know how they season.
Yeah,
they put, you know how they season that blue green.
Yeah, I should have known better. I just was just eating, and I didn't see it at first until I went and put it on my plate. So I had to scrape it off my plate, put my other food in another plate. So, okay, Lord, blessed it. And I said, Lord, I didn't even know. So I couldn't eat them greens. You know?
Yeah, I love me some greens too, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
love
love me some
greens. That's
greens.
why I just took them. I didn't think, okay, this is greens, but had a
Yeah, right.
little chunk of pork in there. I should have checked it, but that's
Right.
what grace is for. We didn't know better. Now, if you keep eating pork for 20 years, then you're gonna get a result. But that one is like, okay, we didn't know because we eating unclean food and water every day. You don't even
Every
know it.
day,
There's
Con.
every
something
day.
microscopic in that food. And you go to the grocery store, go to the restaurant, all that stuff you can't read on the back, man. You just gotta just do the best you can and bless it. Even when you grow food at home, man, this stuff coming out in the rain, man, acid rain and exhaust from all of this smoke and gas from the plane is getting in the soil, and it's something in everything. Pesticides blowing all over the place, settling. But that's about the best is you grow it yourself, and But we're just eating a little less poison now, but poison nonetheless. So that's why we just bless it, keep moving, man. Don't get over righteous. Don't be get over righteous, or don't be over wicked too, and think grace gonna cover everything. The Most High, you
Nah,
can't play. He knows what you can and can't do, and He watch it. You're gonna play it off and try to sneak a pork chop sandwich, and okay, I'm just gonna bless it, and He knows what you're doing. I seen that happen, man. I seen that story. I said, brother, okay, you fell, so just don't do it again because you hit. And this reading, I always go to Isaiah 66:15-17. That's the key scripture to scare somebody into what's going to happen. You get caught out there trying to sneak a
hey,
piece of
hey,
pork.
can we bring that out, Baba Kashaw? Can we bring that out? What's
Yeah, go
that? What's that?
ahead. Isaiah 66:15-17. That's a scare tactic scripture because it scared me when I read it. I said, okay, I read Leviticus, but that's just like end game right there. People try to
Okay,
say you can eat it, but you can't eat it, man. If you know better, you got to do better. And all the other foods we shouldn't eat. I didn't know about catfish and all that stuff, but now I do. I gotta. It's a natural thing. Catfish ain't nothing but a pig in the bottom of the ocean eating all the junk. It's a big old smooth pig. It's a pig with fins. That's what a catfish
Wow,
is.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you shouldn't eat catfish, man. They're pigs on the ocean. That's why they're always in the bottom, sucking up all the dead and the feces, everything that falls in the bottom. They're like a vacuum cleaner.
Mm.
I
And
mean,
they
that's
eat
what they
everything.
was created. That's what they was created for anyway. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying?
They were
You
Con.
know,
created for that. You eat them
I
long
but
enough,
but
you're going to get sick because they're
but
pigs in the
just
ocean.
but just but just as the heathens do, they dig up everything. They eat
Yeah. Mhm.
everything. They everything.
Yeah. They eat snails and eels and
Everything.
octopus, shark,
Everything.
everything. And tells you the law. We ain't supposed to eat those seals. What you going to eat a seal for? You know, we never used to eat that.
Man, they eat everything. Some of this stuff be like they be eating. It's a delicacy, and some of like some people die from some of the stuff they be eating.
Yeah.
No, they die from him. And they were saying, but if you, man, it's crazy, man. They eat everything, man. Saying if Esau, man, and these other heathen nations, man, they are the most
Yeah.
disgusting people, man. The
That's
most
why they way
disgusting
they
people
look,
on
man.
planet Earth.
Look at their skin. Their skin is about the same color as a pig. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Come on.
God,
You know?
and it feels like a pig.
Yeah, there you go. You see?
And
But
and that white woman, or for the
mhm.
sisters, that white man, you know what I'm saying, for real, you know what I'm saying, that skin feels like pig flesh.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, for real. It does. I mean, I don't know. I know
Mhm.
that I know that I mean I know personally, Shalaki, I know personally.
Yeah, right.
I know
Mhm.
personally. I don't like it. And that's what because that's what it is. But anyway, I ain't gonna go off subject. But the thing
Yeah.
is,
Well, okay.
we used to rule. We came from
yeah.
rulership. You
Mhm.
know, we came from rulership. We came from um we used to rule in Europe, the so-called Moors. You know, I ain't gonna say the so-called Moors, whatever the Moors. They were Israelites who called themselves Moors. Am I correct? Am I correct going there, Elder?
Yeah, yeah,
All right.
we were the Moors, but that's later in history. Moor is just a name that was put on us in the 7th and 8th century when black Ishmaelite Arabs, not our people, conquered the black Israelites who had fled to West Africa in 70 AD and set up kingdoms over there. We set up Timbuktu, Mali, Ghana, and all of that, 70 AD. Then 700 years later, that's when you had the Muslim invasion. And they killed many of us, but a lot of us converted to Islam and fought in the armies to save our lives, all that stuff. But most of us died. That's who the Moors were, Israelites that converted to Islam in the 7th century AD. And then later on, in the Arabs who had Israelites, Arabs in the armies, they went up into Spain and they took that over for about 700 years up in there. That was us. Call them Islamic Hebrews, you know. But then some of them.
I like to interject something. You know, we all, I believe most of us saw the movie Roots, right? Now, one interesting thing is the elder was just talking about Israelites who turned Muslim, right? That's the word, yeah, Muslim, Islam, whatever.
Yeah, right.
So my point is,
they say Allah. Go ahead.
Right.
Go ahead.
So if anybody remembers the movie Roots, right, when they captured Kunta and they put him on the ship, I remember with some big nigga, he was huge, like big muscle bound dude. But the point is, they was praying to Allah.
Yeah, those were black Moors.
Now, if you didn't have discernment, you would just think, you know.
Yeah.
Right. See, when you hear and the Lord shall lead thee into Egypt again with ships, you know, if you didn't really, you have to connect everything. This is the point. So, like the elder said, we were subjugated by Islam in the 7th to 9th century.
The 7th century, actually, the Muslims conquered us, began to conquer in 647 AD, and they began to just sweep across Africa. That's why you got Africans. They beat them up too. You got Africans, many of them are Muslims, but they left their Egypt, they left their Ethiopia, and they running around. They either conquered by the white man and the Christians, or they conquered by the Arabs, and now they think they're Muslims. And you ask them that, they be baffled. Like, how are you going to leave your African culture, but you following a foreign invader, Muhammad? You ain't no Arab. They look at you funny.
Right.
So those are the two major religions.
That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, that's right. You know, so the Moors, when they conquered Spain, that's when they were called Moors, because Moors from a French word meaning Moor, which means black. That's all that means. You see, they didn't call themselves. It means black. That's all, or Negro. That's all. Look on the back of a crayon. Sometimes the crayons got MOIR. That means black. But that's just that's a color. That's just a color. And then when you see that movie that you mentioned that, when you see actually buy the book. I got the soft cover book, Roots by Alex Haley. There's a page on 257, might be 271, one of those two, where the slave woman Matilda speaking about Abraham Lincoln, right? And then, you know, her being a slave, she said Abraham Lincoln is freeing the slaves, and she's saying it to another slave. But Matilda was one of the slaves. She said, Abraham Lincoln sounds like Moses freeing us children of Israel. See, it's right there.
How about that?
Get that book.
Right.
Brothers brought that out back in the day. Her talking to another slave about Abraham Lincoln freeing the slaves. She said, they mad, that said, Master mad at Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln is like Moses freeing us children of Israel. So it shows you.
That's the key. Yeah.
Right. And then Kunta Kinte, when he was born and he had the baby, when his father had the baby, first when his father had Kunta Kinte, and he's praying and holds him up to the moonlight.
Right, I remember.
He's speaking Muslim prayer because he was an Israelite that converted to Islam. So it's right what you're saying. On the ship, there were Moors, Israelites. They knew they were Israelites, but they were following Islam.
Right.
The same way the Moors today, the only Moors today would really be Farrakhan and the Muslims, because the Israelites that know it, they got the Bible, but they got the Quran too. They would be the real Moors today, if you want to say who the Moors really were. But now they've accepted it so much. But Farrakhan come out every once in a while and say we're Israelites. But why don't you put down the Quran then and let's get this.
Exactly.
He playing.
Exactly.
You see? He knows who we are, but that's why he's still alive, because he's playing both sides. They ain't killed him yet because they got a leash on him. The powers that be. He bark, but he don't bite. They let him bark, then he pull him back. He'll bark though. He'll bark, but he don't bite. Like Malcolm X was barking and biting. They had to take him out. But Farrakhan, he's controlled. He got a nice leash. They let him bark. Because I love his teachings, but brother, why you know all of this, but you didn't figure out, or you don't want to acknowledge you're a Hebrew Israelite. You're just following another nation's religion. Because he ain't no Arab. He's an Israelite. So leave him alone. Because if he's doing it now, his ancestors were doing it in the past. We're going right back to, the wicked ones then, they wicked now. It tells you that in Revelations 22 and 11, let the just be just still, and the unjust be unjust still. I come quickly. Meaning let it happen. We can't stop them wicked 2/3 brothers. They're going to go. And we can't stop brothers from waking up. They're going to wake up. And whatever level, they're going to wake up. So all we got to do is just labors in the harvest, keep teaching, and waking people up. Just drop the seed, the basics. Color of Christ, who the Negroes and Israelites are, who the white man is and isn't, keep the laws, repent. You get that in them and they believe it, okay, because Christ might come the next day. If that's all he got, he'll be saved. The knowledge is easy. Just get the basics to him, and then time to read that Black history book called the Bible. So let's read that Isaiah 66, 15 and 17. Then we'll zip on up into September Severus, how that happened.
God. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 66 and verse 16. For by fire and by his sword will Yahweh plead with all flesh, and the slain of Yahweh shall be many. They that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree in the midst, eating swine's flesh, and the abomination, and the mouse shall be consumed together, saith Yahweh.
That's it right there. That should scare you into them people that eating the mouse, which represents any rodent. The Chinese eating rats and dogs. People eat bats.
Yeah.
All of that.
Yeah.
And all that. And they in their groves and their temples. They're in the cookouts eating. Blacks down south, a lot of them eat squirrel and possum. That's all in there. They gonna get killed by the fire. They're gonna be 2/3 if they don't stop eating that. Once they learn. Now, if they say, well, that's the Old Testament, well, let's go to 2 Corinthians 7 and 1. I can go all day. We go to Leviticus, but the quick ones, because when you're out in the street, you got to have those quick head cutter scriptures that they can walk away with. Because you may not be able to read all of Leviticus 11, which is a whole dietary menu. You may not be able to read Deuteronomy 14, which shows you all the meats to eat, not to eat. But you hit him with this New Testament. Always have a scripture that you can, for any subject, that you can go to the old and new, because people get funny. Well, that's Old Testament, that's Old Covenant. Let's go to the New Covenant. It says the same thing. In more or less, more letter words. 2 Corinthians 7 and 1.
God, this is the book of 2 Corinthians 7 and 1. Having therefore these promises, dearly beloved, let us cleanse ourselves from all the filthiness of the flesh and spirit, perfecting holiness in the fear of the Most High.
So that's the one. We got to cleanse ourselves, spiritual battle, carnal war. We got to cleanse our flesh and minds and spirit. Okay. Flesh is we got to eat right. Okay. Just so, I mean, we know we all take showers, but this talking about the inside, your spirit.
Right, right. God,
Um,
God.
that's it.
Yeah,
All
that's right.
uncleanliness. Okay. Or
Yeah.
Isaiah's coming in play. People going to get burnt up. They dying today as we speak. You see, some are dying real slow. They ate pork 20 years in their life. Water on the brain, overweight, arthritis, all that come from eating pork and the mouse and all the bad crab, you know, lobster. Those are nothing but roaches and pigs in the bottom of the ocean doing their
Yep.
thing. Leave them on. Most I got enough good meat for us to eat. Okay, we can eat that. Okay, and not even that meat got to be eaten all the time. Take a fast and from that sometime. Ain't nothing wrong with going vegan for a
Right,
while, but
God.
ain't nothing wrong with eating meat on the Passover and on the feast days. Ain't nothing wrong with it. I'm not against vegans. I'm just against them saying I can't have my lamb. You crazy? You know,
Mhm.
Yeah, I
right,
need my
Right,
right.
lamb.
God,
I need that.
God. You know what I'm saying?
The vegan can be
Right.
vegans. You do that. That's all right. But don't you're ordered to eat lamb on the Passover.
That's
You know,
right.
that's it.
Yeah,
And
that's right. That's right.
you ordered to do
That's
it.
right.
But
Right.
so now where are we going to? Oh yeah, so now we're coming to the Tommy Howard shot. Israelites had been scattered all over the earth. We were everywhere at that time. During Christ's time, you had brothers ruling up in Europe at that time. We had the 10 tribes over here, Aztec, Maya, Inca, and all them brothers, ruling, and brothers up in Russia. They was ruling up there during Christ's time. Those kingdoms were rising. The Goths, the Scythians, the Anglo-Saxons, which means sons of Isaac. That was us up in Europe.
Wow.
The French. The book of Galatians is when they were conquered, a lot of Galatians fled up into what you call Gaul, because Gaul means Galatians. Okay. And then Gaul broke up and became France and Germany. So people, you know, that's it. You go into Britain, that was founded by a black brother named Brutus. His name means covenant man. And we founded Britain and Ireland, France. All those names are Hebrew names. They pertain to that.
Mm.
But what it was is that there were brothers up there who didn't know Christ. They would still had a remnant of Moses, but they had adopted other, religions and other philosophies that go all the way back to Egypt, Cain, or some Roman stuff. So the brothers was going off right at that time. And September Severus was just brought up like a lot of us, just a Roman citizen or American citizen. And you heard about the Bible, but you knew about it, but you were Roman, until someone wake you up. So he was, Septimius Severus was cold Roman, brought up like that. He's the Roman way. He spoke a little Hebrew. He knew he was a Hebrew, but he was Roman. It's like blacks today. They know they African, but I'm an American, but they know they African. But then they don't even know they're not even African. They're really Israelites, you see.
Right.
So Septimius Severus was in the Roman army, and in there were like 12 Caesars. You can read Second Ezra 12 later. It's a whole chapter prophesies of the 12 Caesars. Okay, from Julius Caesar up until Vespasian, who was the one that conquered us in 70 AD, started the conquering, and then 7 years later they were besieging it because they came from the north, and they conquered Galilee first, and Capernaum, and all coming down. The seventh year is when they finally conquered Jerusalem. 7 year siege. They had to conquer all of it from the north down. And up in Galilee, the army, Josephus, Matthias Josephus was a general in the Galilean army. He was running that, and he held back the Romans for a good year until finally it was conquered. And then they took him, Vespasian took him back to Rome, and that's where he wrote the Wars of the Jews and Josephus. You see, then after that, they went on down, and he saw the fall. They brought him out there just to mock him. They brought him out there, and he saw the fall of Jerusalem on that day. Because after Vespasian, before Vespasian, the emperor died, and Josephus prophesied to the emperor Vespasian that you're going to be emperor, because he was a general first, conquering, and he said you're going to be emperor next year, right? When he was conquered, he had him in captivity, but he was a general. They honored generals. Dude had a nice room, but he couldn't go nowhere. He was on house arrest, And then the dude prophesied, and then the emperor died, and a year later to the day, Vespasian became emperor. So he left and took Josephus with him. He was like, this dude can prophesy. I might need this guy with me. So he didn't kill Josephus. That's why I wrote those books in captivity. But he had a nice room. And then Vespasian sent his son Titus, and he finished up 70 AD and conquered us. So you had some of the younger men, when they conquered us, they took them in captivity as slaves throughout Europe. So the younger men grew up as Roman. They knew back the Israelites, but because we used to go to Sabbath every week, so you were brought up knowing you was a Jew. But now, 7 to 8, you growing up and all you know is Roman ways. And I'm saying that because some of the brothers got wicked, and They was being like brothers today brought up, you might be doing something wicked to your people or whoever, because a whole generation goes by from a fall of 70 AD up until 193 AD. So the children, they just Romans, wherever they're at, wherever the Romans put them, they're slaves, or they're in the Roman armies, or they're doing whatever, but they're Roman. Because a lot of brothers lost their minds when the temple fell. They thought the Lord totally left them. Some brothers converted, some brothers committed suicide. Some brothers just said, oh, I'm just going to go and be a Roman. Or I'm just going to go and be whatever religion. Same way brothers today, they just don't believe in the Bible no more. They just want to do whatever. I'm just going to be me, And so you had a lot of brothers like that. Happens today, So because that was the center when they just knew the Romans couldn't destroy the temple of Israel. They was waiting for the angels to come. They didn't come. It's like, oh man, So that psychologically messed people up, Israelites. So Septimius Severus, when he took over in 193 AD, when there was a fight against these white boys up in the Senate, and they all killed each other, so it was a power vacuum. And he took his army. He was the first one to come in, didn't even fight. He just rode in with his army, and they was happy to see this man. Back then, it wasn't no black-white thing. It was about what religion you believe and your status and your money. You don't read about this black-white thing. They was happy to have somebody running it who can fight and going to help the citizens out. They didn't care what you was. Now, when you get higher in the families, that's where they kept it, bloodline, because that's how we were. David's sons and sons rule. But as you get down, there was all kind of mixing and people marrying each other in Rome. Rome was a melting pot, just like America is. But as you get higher up, even these higher whites, at least, they marry each other. They keep it white. Why do you get up? We kept it black. When you get up in David's line, he made sure all those men from David to Christ were black men. Okay? You can see the theology in Matthew 5. Wasn't worried about the women, just made sure the line of the sons of David. And that's how, the kings of Europe, a lot of those kings was Judah, because they the kings. Some of the kings was Benjamin, because they were the first kings. Then all the priests, they was all Levites, because they were setting up the new Israel. But they was, just like me coming into this, a lot of us we're new to it. So we're going to have fragments. You do it like this, you do it like that. Nobody, it wasn't really, perfect. But they did have the basics. They knew Judah had to be the kings and the priests, the missionaries, the monks, cathedrals. Levi run that. But they was fighting each other just like we always do, you know. But they set it up, and so Septimius Severus came on the scene, but he knew he was a Jew, but he still kept it Roman. That's what I wanted to bring it to. He kept it Roman. So he was a black. He could have been white and did what he did. He was persecuting Christians, brothers who believe in Christ. That's what the Romans did. He just did it. You know, he was killing some Jews because he was a Roman. I know I'm a Jew, but I'm not those Jews over there. And because you know the Jews, anything
Wow.
like today, brothers today. Oh, I'm an American. Anybody who don't like America, I don't like them. I don't care. It's African,
Right.
this and that. You got blacks in the army fighting,
Yeah.
you know, in Iraq and fighting Libya, and that's they black, even though they're not our people. So Septimius Severus, I wouldn't exalt him as somebody righteous. He was a black man with a white mind. He
Okay.
set up more baths, the baths of Carcilla and the baths of Septimius, where faggots come and all that stuff, and he let them do that. You know, he wasn't a righteous dude. He was like a Crips and Bloods taking over. So they cut up. you know,
Right.
the Crips and
Okay.
Bloods taking over. It would not be nice for a lot of people. Okay, so that's
Gotcha.
what Septimius Severus taking over was. But then after him, that was 193 A.D. About 20 emperors later, when he died, his sons took over Carcilla and Geta, and Carcilla killed his brother so he can rule. His brother was older than him. He said, "Man, I'll kill this dude so I can take over." He waited for his father to die, though. you know? So they was wicked. Now these brothers wicked. So Carcilla took over, and after that, you had about 20 or 30 emperors. Some ruled for 2 weeks, 2 days, 3 months. We was off the
Damn.
trail.
No
Like I
stability.
said, that was black rulers ruling, coming out of the
You wait
line
for
of
2
Timothy
days.
or or some other black gang, Crips and Bloods. That's how it was. But they was wise. They was good fighters. They was governing, but they was wicked. They wouldn't
Right.
have sex with them. They wouldn't try to set Jerusalem back up. They were just Romans. So they could have been white doing what they did, but they were black. That's our history. So from
Right.
Priscilla all the way up into the one who changed it up because he's seen Roman emperors were getting off and getting whacked, and they ruled in 2 weeks and all of this stuff. So not until Diocletian in 285. You got 193 up until Diocletian. There were about 60 emperors up until then, just black emperors. You can go see those names. But
Right.
Diocletian came on the scene and said, "Look, we're going to break this up into 4 emperors. I'll be the top one. Then I have one rule in the east, one rule in the west, and each emperor will have an emperor under him called an Augustus." Okay, and if that one get taken out in the east, the Augustus takes over because he was trying to quell all the insurrections, the gang wars of the Roman Empire in 285 A.D. We was fighting each other, ruling,
Right.
but fighting, and having these East Coast, West Coast. That's how it was back then with these
Wow.
brothers. So Diocletian had his man Maxentius rule the east. No, Diocletian stayed in the east. Maxentius ruled the west. And then you had way in Britain, you had Constantius. He was an Augustus under Maxentius in the west. Then you had Licinius was Augustus, a title, and then the Caesar was Diocletian. And I got a picture of them, 4 of them sitting there hugging each other because they know that we're going to unify the empire, because it's hard to send a whole army out to Britain from Rome. It take about a week. So you had ways, we had roads to runners, post offices, and horses. We had pigeons. So you would know every day, constantly you're knowing what's happening in Rome and Europe. You had ways to communicate because they didn't have phones back then, the cell phones.
Right.
So, that's what happened. They broke it up, the empire, into 4 rulers, 2 Caesars and 2 Augustuses, one in the east, one in the west. And it's pretty cool, but they was kind of like not Christian. You know, the Christians were on the down low, but they were still rising because Constantius, who was a father of Constantine in Britain, he was Augustus of Britain, and Constantine's mother, who was Helena, right? They were ruling Britain. Constantine's mother, Helena, was a Christian secretly, you see, and she taught Constantine. These are black people now, right? All black. I got pictures of them, and that's later on when Diocletian died and Maxentius died and abdicated. Constantine became emperor because the other guy got old, the other guy got killed, and so he became emperor. And also Constantius, which is his father, right? He had he had Constantine, and then Constantine had a son called Uger. Okay, and Uger was the ancestor of what's his name, King Arthur. You see, so that's a whole different history. King Arthur was coming out of Constantine's line. Constantine had a lot of sons. That's why they were fighting over who was going to rule Britain, the Saxons or the Jutes or the Vikings. They were all blacks fighting blacks. There were whites with us, but they were this under us. The ruling families were all related. They were cousins marrying each other, and they were related. Now, when you get down further, that was other blacks, whites population, and they was in our armies. They was allowed, but they was like not allowed to run nothing when the blacks took over. And we pushed them up in mountains, but they were all over Europe already. They just weren't in the Caucasus. You see, so they were all over Europe. Just in the Netherlands, they were in the lower areas. They were just the same way we are in their kingdom is the way they were in our kingdom. We everywhere, but we wasn't running nothing. But we was, still here.
Right. Wow.
Separate neighborhoods. We just wasn't dogging them out though. They were allowed to be population. They were the commoners, but the royals, the knights, that's why I call them knights. It was the black folks. The priests were all black Israelites, and they were all of the tribes. And there was scattering of the 10 tribes there too, because all the 10 tribes didn't come over here to America. There was still some scattered that didn't want to go to Jeroboam and stayed with Judah. I can prove that in the scriptures, but that's a story.
Right.
And there was some of Judah that stayed with Jeroboam because they were living up there, probably had a wife. It's politics. That's why you have blacks over here with the Indians already. That came with the 10 tribes. It wasn't a clean split.
Right.
You can prove that in 2 Chronicles 30. This is way after the 10 tribes came to America in 722. This is King Hezekiah and Josiah. Way after the 10 tribes left, there were tribes still left in the land. And they were still down with, the brothers down there. You see? So there was a couple Ephraim, Manasseh. When you read Luke 2:36, that's during Christ's time. There was a sister called, let's get that real quick so we can, I could give you a little bit, but you can read the chapter. 2 Chronicles 30 proves that there were some of the 10 tribes left in the land, that the Assyrian king did not take all the tribes to Assyria. He left some of them to pick up all the crops and to work the land to take care of the soldiers that he left there. They were slaves, the farmers. See, Assyria, they took the best of us so they can quell rebellion. Babylon did it too. You take the leaders and the kings and the seed royal and all the warriors and scientists, you take them to Babylon. The best of the 10 tribes leaders went to Babylon, but he left the commoners and the brick makers and the guys who make swords, blacksmith. He left some of them in the land. And that's what you read in 2 Kings 17, and you read that in 2 Chronicles 30th chapter. It was some of the tribes left here, and some of them, were during Christ's time. Get Luke 2:36.
Wow.
Hello? Yeah, Luke 2:36. Yeah, get Luke 2:36. Let's read that scripture. But
You
you
got
can
it,
read
y'all.
later.
God,
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
God, this is the book of Luke, chapter 2 and 36.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one Anna, a prophetess, the daughter of Phanuel of the tribe of Asher.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
She was of great
You
age
got it.
and lived with a husband 7 years from her virginity.
That's it. That's the tribe of Asher. I thought all of them came to America. Not all of them. Just the best of them when they came out of Assyria, right? Those were the leaders that Syrians took. And it tells you in the Syrian records on the Behistine wall, he took about 30,000 of the best of the Israelites, the 10 tribes. It didn't happen overnight. It was different Syrian King Pekah, Esarhaddon, then it was Shalmaneser. They were taking Gad, Reuben, then they took Manasseh, then they took that. It was a transition. It was over a couple years that he took the best of them, but left some in the land to work the land because the Assyrian king took other people and left garrisons. That's what you do. You leave a base there. So these guys had to eat. So they had to have subjects. So some of the 10 tribes were left there that couldn't fight. They were just farmers and barbers and things like that. You took all the war. You killed the warriors, but you took some of them, and then you can break them. They fight in your wars. That's how it always is when nations take nations over. Egypt was the same way. Okay, so it's Babylon. So it's Persia. Every nation's army was a melting pot of peoples. Okay, so when you read in 722 BC, that was a final fall, but it was fallen before that. And then the Assyrians took the best of us over to Assyria, 10 tribes, the leadership, 30,000 written on the Behistine wall. You can go look it up. Okay. So then remnant in them, after the Babylonians, Egyptians, and Persians, they got together and took over Assyria, right? And that was in 612. So it showed you how long they were in captivity in Assyria from 722 to 612. And that's when Assyria fell. And you can read that in the visions of Daniel. Okay. When he goes into the visions, you see the statue with the different empires, head of gold, head of silver. Before that, it was Syria. Then after that, Babylon took over Syria. Then you have Persians and Medes, that's the silver. Then you have Greeks took over the Persians and Medes. Then you have the Romans. But Assyria is right on top. So you're seeing that history right there real quick. In there, in Daniel, in this new chapter, he goes into it. So from 722 to 612, that's BC now. I'm going back in BC now. We're going to come back up to AD time. But that's just the 10 tribes and what happened. And all that confusion when Babylon was falling was over time. These brothers got in ships, and it says they went into the Euphrates. They didn't walk along the shore. And they got some ships. We knew about
Right.
ships. We went on down the Euphrates and came over here to America. Okay, a couple thousand of us in some ships, and that's that remnant that they kept. They had the Hebrew, they had the records, but they missed Christ. So when the brothers came here, a lot of them didn't know about Christ. They was following Moses' law, but they was kind of um, over those years when they finally came here 2,000 years later. You seen that remnant of the Israelite culture there, but you see some other things. Brothers, little Babylonian, little this, but they were Hebrews and they spoke the purest Hebrew because they weren't twisted with the other nations. The purest
Mm.
Hebrew speakers, right, that weren't messed up with us over in the East were the 10 tribes here because nobody messed with them from when they went into captivity when they came over here. The Indians speaking Hebrew, that's the purest right there.
The Lost Lunar Stones, right?
What's
The
that?
Lost Lunar Stones.
Yeah, the Stones. They spoke Hebrew.
Mm-hmm.
And some were more Hebrew acting than others, because we always had brothers going off. Even Judah was doing stuff. So we're in this time. Okay. Well, my father out here. What's going on? You ready? Okay. 1 second. My pops out here sitting on the porch, but he ready to come in.
Yeah, handle your business.
So hold on 1 second, okay?
Okay, no doubt. No, do your thing. Akim, that is so interesting.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
interesting. I mean,
all
when I
praise to
grew
the
up,
Most High, man.
Con,
Hey,
when I grew
Con,
up,
man.
all this history is whitewashed. I mean, all of it.
Yeah, Con,
That's
Con,
crazy, Ak. That's why I'm
yeah,
so
Con.
grateful the elder came on, man, because I didn't know this stuff. I've been in Israel for 10 years now. And a lot of this, well, some of it I knew, but the majority of what the elders bringing out, I did not know. Which goes to show you can always learn something, bro. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man. That was, I'm gonna pick his brain some more. He don't know it yet. I'm gonna pick his brain some more, man. This is good knowledge, man. We ruled, man. Niggas wasn't slaves their whole goddamn existence. Niggas ruled. You feel me?
Okay, I'm back.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Popped out
sir.
there. He's out there getting some sun. He was in his
Yeah.
wheelchair. I pulled him back in the bed, so now he'll be done for the night. You know,
Yeah. All praises. All praises.
doing all
Yeah,
right though.
man. This is fascinating information, Elder. Fascinating information.
Yes, it's all in there. You know, it's all in the scriptures. Let me get Colossians. So let's get back to AD, so you see what happened there. So Colossians 3:11. But this delay it back. The time of Solomon is when we had the height of our rule, right? A couple hundred years. And this is when a lot of Israelites, a lot of nations came to Israel. Israel became a melting pot like America. And they were coming there, but they had to convert. But we had maritime power, we had shipping going all over the world. Solomon even came over here sometimes, but he never set up a colony here. But it says no one dwelt in the Sarbath until the 10 tribes came. For Solomon to come here and to get some gold going back. His navy, had a navy at sea. It tells you he was going north, south, east, and west, blessing the world. So a lot of tribes began, not tribes, but some brothers and some nobles, as they became the sands of the sea, they began to spread out. The same thing the white man did when he stepped up out of Europe. He was going everywhere, you know. Magellan and Christopher Columbus going to Africa, going to India, doing that. We did the same thing already. So I'm telling you that when you go in the history of these names I'm going to read, you're going to see the history goes right with Colossians 3:11. Let's read that.
God. This is the book of Colossians, chapter 3 and 11, where there is neither Greek nor Jew, circumcision or uncircumcision, barbarian, Scythian, bond nor free, but Christ is all and all socket and in all.
Okay. So that's just showing you that all these people, how is Christ all in all? Because these were other names of Israelites that had migrated out and started smaller kingdoms, but still coming back with Solomon during that time. Because when you check Scythians and barbarians, go in the history book, or you can Google it. It says, when did these people come to be? And it'll tell you 1000 BC. And that's right around the time when Solomon ruled and David, you see. And you go into barbarian, that just means bearded ones, you know. And you go into the Greeks, there were black Greeks first called Lacedaemonians. That's in the Apocrypha. We were the first Greeks. The white ones came in the scene with the Macedonian Greeks. That's when they became white, and you see all that gay stuff. Before that, Spartans, all them Greeks you read about before that, the Argonauts were all black Israelites that migrated up into Greece at that time and founded it. And that's in the scriptures too. When you read about ancient Greece, mainly the tribe of Dan was the one leading those expeditions into Greece, which before that it was called Javan, one of the sons of Japhet. These are all brown people now. Whites wasn't ruling nothing, okay? But then the black Israelite Lacedaemonian Greeks had servants called Helots, Helot. They were living in, they put them in Macedonia. It's those dudes that took us over later on because we were fighting each other on in Greece. The Hellenes against the Spartans, against the Attica and all that. And what's the other one? Athens. Those are all us fighting each other. So our numbers fell, then whites took over, and you see in the 5th century AD, we lost power. You know, in the Battle of Chaironia, 338 BC is when the Macedonians, the Macedonians conquered the last remnants of the black Greeks. That's why you see Alexander coming out. You see, they conquered us. Some of them had joined with him, but we killed each other down. I always say the same way the Indians lost America is how we lost Europe, more or less. Same thing. Same way the Indians lost Europe, tribe by tribe. Then what happened? The Lord stepped in and threw a plague. The black plague, bubonic plague, killed off millions of Israelites in Europe. Okay, that's how our numbers fell, brothers. Yeah, and that's how Esau was able to take over. Because I'm wondering how he take over everywhere in Europe over us, and he's all over the place there because he was already there, but he was apart from us. So the plague was killing off the noble families, and you would go into whole towns and it's depopulated because the people's fleeing because of the Black Death, killing black folks. And Moses had to kill our numbers down so that Esau can come in and handle us. He couldn't do nothing with us. Then a lot of Israelites lost later on during the Crusades. That was blacks, Israelites who said, let's get rid of our differences. I know you French, I know you British, I know you're Spanish. Let's get our homeland back because the Arabs had taken over Jerusalem. So we sent about 10 crusades out there. We got it, we lost it, we got it. You can see that movie, Kingdom of Heaven, man. That's a good movie, but it should be all black Arabs fighting black Israelite knights. But they got white boys on it. But and all of that,
Cultural.
Yeah, so Jerusalem was our homeland. We all knew we were Israelites. That's why they were fighting for Jerusalem so much, because all those kings were Israelites and Christians. They was fighting in black Christ. They was all fighting to get the Holy Land back before it was open, and Arabs and Christians came. But then the Arabs said, we want it. See where they want it now. I mean, you got Mecca. Why you want Jerusalem? But they know, what the real deep one is? The Arabs, the brown ones now. The brown ones know that they're the first sons of Abraham. So they think they got Jerusalem and Mecca. See, they think, and then read about Ishmael got a covenant, and then Isaac got one. So they like, well, we're the oldest. We should be running this. We're sons of Abraham. They really think that in the spirit. That's why they coming so hard on us. The white man just took our place in history. He's fighting our wars that we fought against Ishmael. Now he fighting, acting like he the Jew and he the Christians.
Right.
You see, he just took our places. Same way with the Indians, took our places. But
he took over everybody's places, huh?
Everybody's places, man. Those white Arabs you see right now, they nothing but Ottoman Turks.
Yep.
That's all. The Ottoman Turks, the Seljuk Turks were whites in one part of Khazaria, right? In the 10th century, Arabs went and converted them with their imams, converted whites to fight in their armies against black Israelites. Because the two world powers was Islam of Ishmael and Christian, Byzantine Israelites. Those are the two world powers. In the middle of that was a third world power, and that was the white man in the Caucasus and all over the place. So some black Jews converted them. That's where you get your white Jews from, in Poland and all of that. We converted them as they would come out of the Khazar Empire. But then the Khazars had a little fight, and some of them converted to Islam, the other side, out of their leader Osman. And then later on, they took over the caliphs as the Ottoman Turks. Out of the Turk means hill dwellers. They lived up in the Caucasus, but they had a lot of numbers, a lot of armies. And Arabs and Muslims, they was wondering which one they should join because they in the middle of this. So some of them were to Islam, some of them converted to be Jews or Judah and follow the Old Testament. Then some of them converted to follow Christ. They became Christians and they took over Rome, you see. So that's what happened. White men began to take our place. The House of Saud, these were white boys that took over the leadership in Saudi Arabia after them. And you see, they white boys, they look like Italians. They ain't about Roman babies. But now if you
Yeah.
go and you go watch the news, the lower you go down, the browner Ishmael gets, throwing rocks at people.
Right.
Them was the real ones. And they mad because they know the House of Saud number Edomites. Same way when you go
Salakia.
into, yeah.
Salakia. That's why you have some people that say Esau is the Arab, is Saudi Arabia. You ever saw them post stuff like that?
Yeah, I seen that. I seen all of that, man. They tripping out thinking the Arabs are Esau, that they live by the sword, but every nation live by the sword. The samurai and the Japanese, they about swords. Is that Esau? you know, right there.
Right.
But they just don't know the history. The leadership is Esau, that's House
Yeah.
of Goat. But
Yeah.
the people are brown Ishmaelites, because
Yeah.
the first son of Abraham, okay, is them. And then Isaac, Israelites, we came out of that. And Esau came out of that too. You see,
If you
that's
look
why they
at
all.
Osama bin Laden, he looked like a nigga. Excuse my language. Osama bin
Yeah.
Laden. Take a look at him.
Osama bin Laden, yeah, all them people, man. You see,
Mm-hmm.
you start look at that. Even go to Mexico. You know, you see, I've been to Mexico. The real Mexicans, some of them look like us. Most of them are Indian looking. Those are the real people, the Maya and the Aztec and the Olmec and the Toltecs. When you
Right.
go down and see the poor, those ones are real ones. But then when you go into the leadership and the government, or you watch their TV
Right.
shows, those are
Yep.
Spanish babies.
Yep. Yep.
Those are
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Spanish babies.
Yep.
Oh, and
Yep.
all through South America is like that. The leadership is white, Spanish babies, but then the people are the real people.
Right.
That's what we do
Yep.
all over the world. You know,
Yep.
all you do is go there and get boots on the ground. Here's the real people. I've been in Belize 4 times, man. People look just like us. Some look like Indians, and they all get along. you know, they're just working. That's how it was before the white man came and divided them: light skin, dark skin, and straight hair, woolly hair. But when you get
Yep.
deep in there, it's blacks been there before the white man came, and Indians. They just divided them up.
Yep.
Dominican used to be Simeon, and they brought in Levi and got them fighting each other. That's prophesied. That used to be just Indians and some blacks, but they divided them up. Then they brought some Levi in there, and that's why you see Levi and Simeon, their brethren, on the same island. But because Simeon think he more white because he got straight hair, but he brown now. Okay, and then you got Levi, which is darker, so the white man made that division with them, but they weren't fighting before the white man came, living together. So you see the history of each one, you see that division. So after Diocletian, we're going back to 3rd century. Okay, so Diocletian was emperor. His boy abdicated, meaning they retired. So Constantius, father of Constantine, and Constantine, you know, um, when these guys were taken out and abdicated and died, Constantine had to fight the other emperor in the east because he wanted to bring the nation under one emperor again. He said he wanted to say, Constantine, get out of here. I'm ruling it. So at the Battle of Milvain Bridge, they met Constantine's forces and Maxentius' forces, who was going to be the sole emperor. See, Diocletian had cooled it out because he just broke up before, but then after he died, brothers just want to fight. Crips and Bloods on a big level. This was the 3rd century coming out of 193 AD, you know, and we were still Roman ways. Wasn't no Christianity all up in Rome yet. We were just like we are now. If blacks took over right now, America, they'd just be Americans, you know, and there'd be fights over which black group going to rule: Israelites, Muslims, or just black Americans who living where they got bombs at. We'd be fighting all against each other if we were to just take over right now. Or if whites would just disappear, we'd be fighting each other, you know, who's going to rule. So that's how it was then. So that's why Christ had to come to Constantine, and before he was going to fight, he was outnumbered. And Christ showed him this flaming sword in the sky. Same way Christ came to Paul, he came to Constantine. He said, with this symbol, go forth and conquer. Because Constantine already knew about the Christians. Okay, he was persecuting some of them all the way down to 993 AD, but he wasn't doing it as much because his mother was secretly a Christian. And he kind of was believe in Christ, but he had to keep up appearances or get assassinated if he tried to say, I follow Christ and you're a Roman, you know. So he had to keep it cool. And he had to let all the nations that he was under, he let them, the same way white men do, he let you do whatever religion you want. You can be a witch, you can be gay. It was already there when Constantine took over. He didn't start it, it was already there, ruling Rome, remnants from when the whites ruled. And they were just letting it happen because it's too big to change America now. Because America should be the Bible. They say in God we trust, but yet you can be anything you want. That didn't happen during Solomon's time. Everybody was, you come in here, you got to go by the Bible and get circumcised. So that's what happened in Rome. He was ruling. But angel came to Constantine. He said, this symbol, go forth and conquer. So all his army had their armor on, and they put on these white ponchos with a red cross in the front. Okay. Now you see where I'm going, that white poncho with a red cross. And then he went and he won that battle. You know, he won the battle and he became sole emperor. And then the spirit that came to him was Christ. He said, when you do this, Constantine said, if you let me win this battle, I will turn the whole Roman Empire Christian. And his mom had something to do with that too, Helena, you know, because she was teaching them follow Christ, but they couldn't say it too loud. The same way if you get up in and you're working for the government, you can't say follow the black, Christ is black. You ain't gonna say that to Trump, you know, even though he knows it's true. He just gonna keep on down low. No, I'm not gonna shake it up. I'm going good right now with the white Jesus. Thank you. That's how Trump would do. That's what Obama would have did. He'd have kept it white. So that's how Constantine was. It was all politics. And then Constantine was black. He looked like Joe Jackson, Michael Jackson's father. I got a picture of him. Got a big afro, nose, looked like Joe Jackson. But so that's when, after he won that battle, he began the process of converting the Roman Empire into the Holy Roman Empire. And it was a battle, you know, it was a battle, you know, to do it. But he went and sent out notes to everybody in the realm, even down in Jerusalem. Because by that time, the brothers were scattered, and each brother had a book or a copy of the Bible, or you might have had Jeremiah, might have had Hosea and Jonah scattered, just to keep the book from, you know, losing our knowledge. Our leaders had them. They were scattered in Thessalonica and Corinthia, you know, somewhere in Greece. We just had the book. Constantine said, come on to me. I want to bring it into one book. You're my brothers. I want to finance you. And they came out the woodwork and had 3 councils. And I got pictures of them in their councils. They all black. And they brought their books. Some of the books, they didn't make it, but the Most High was breaking it down into this milk that would just hook us in and keep us until Christ come. And that's when Constantine didn't do it now. He's new to this. It was the men, he let them do it. And they had their councils, and he just, okay, you finished with it? Okay, and he stamped it. And that's when it became canonized. And King James came later. He used what Constantine put together. And he didn't write it. He had 47 men come to a council. They put together the books that Constantine laid out over time. Some were written in Latin, some were written in French, some were written in that, and he made it into English. And when they finished it in 2.5 years, he stamped it, the King James Version. He didn't write nothing. He was king. He had his men do it, scholars and priests. These were mainly priests because they were the ones that had the book. Mainly Levi held the book. So Constantine called all those brothers to come in. Then after they got it together, they sent out missionaries, to convert Israelites throughout the Roman Empire. Some of them had backup, some of them didn't. St. Patrick was one of the missionaries come out of Constantine time. He was 5th century. And he taught the brothers in Ireland. That's when Ireland began to follow Christ. He taught the brothers up in Russia. Saint Cornelius was sent to Russia and converted them. That's why Russia was known as the second Israel. Okay, right there. Before that, they were just brothers. Oh yeah, I forgot to read. I read it already. The Scythians and the barbarians all began to come in history around Solomon's time. These were brothers who were scattering up there, but they would come back. They were just moving out and doing the same thing the white man. Then he took over, trade. But then when the captivities came, right, of all the nations, Israelites stayed where they was at. And some of them left to these brothers who were scattered abroad, Scythians, barbarians, brothers in Greece, and they stayed there. Carthage was an Israelite colony. They were going back and forth, but then when they seen Israel was destroyed and all of that, and all the divisions and different kings, they stayed in Carthage. That's it. Those were Israelites also. Carthage. If you scroll down on my page, I did a whole proof that the Carthaginians were a colony of Israelites that started in 812, just after Solomon died in the split. Then the Assyrians came, and the Babylonians came. So a lot of brothers scattered up in north, and they became 4 major groups that scattered up in north and went up into these lands. It was Scythians, barbarians, and then you had Goths, and you had the Goths and the Celts. They were the 4 ones. Then they broke up into all these smaller names. You heard the Celtics, you heard the Goths, the Gothics. That was us. They were the barbarians. They broke up into lower names. Gothic means God's people. Okay? And then you had the Scythians and the barbarians. That means bearded ones. A lot of them had ships, and they were going all up in Russia. They would have, when you go into Russian history, they tell you they come from the Scythians, and you're reading the Scythians right in the Bible. So they went up there under the leader Prince Ruick, and they were just regular brothers following, Moses and the law. But some of them had adopted some idolatry, because some brothers, were still doing Canaanite stuff, still doing stuff. So you see that mixture of that, and they were called Vikings. Varangian Vikings. There's 3 types of Vikings. One's in the east, one's up north, and ones that started and founded Russia under Prince Ruick. And his name was Ruick Rus. Rus means rowers. That's what Russia means, rowers, because they were rowing up there through the Volga River, the Danube River, and they founded, Suzdal, Moscow. They built the Kremlin, which is made of wood first, but then later on they made it out of brick. When the whites burnt it, this new Kremlin now isn't the one that was back then. It's really looked just like it, but it was all made of wood. And they didn't use no nails. It was all just like doing, erector set or what do you call them things that you build with. But they didn't use no nails when they built it. Everything was fitted when they made the first Kremlin, no nails. They also made the St. Basil's Cathedral, that colorful church that's in the middle of Red Square. We built that, okay? Because you go inside of it, a lot of these icons that you say I put up, they on the walls and ceilings of that building. Yeah,
Wow.
We built that. And I got a picture of people walking inside. I said, oh, that's an icon. I got that one. They all on the walls and ceilings. Beautiful stuff. Black icons and other churches all throughout. But in 922 AD, Prince Rurik of the Rus was ruling Moscow, and Constantine had set up the Holy Roman Empire and left Rome and started the capital in what you call Turkey. This was in 324 AD. After Rome, in all Rome, by this time, all of Europe was Christianized. The Holy Roman Empire. The Bible was the book. And he was slowly getting rid of religions, but some of them he compromised with. I'm not justified, but he kept Sunday. He kept some stuff just like America do, but the Bible is the law now. The Most High Christ had to stay in there, so we wouldn't go too far down. So now, from the 5th century, when Constantine finally moved the capital from Rome and wanted to be closer to Jerusalem, and he's between the continent of Europe, and he's near the third power, which is the whites up in the mountains, and he's near Arabia and near Jerusalem, right out there at the Bosporus. It's called Turkey today, after the Ottoman Turks who conquered it, but we didn't call it that. We called it the city of Constantinople. Okay, so from the 5th century to the 15th century, we ruled for 1,000 years. Constantinople was the capital of Christian. After that, we converted brothers in Russia in 922. That became Christian. Russia was not atheist until, we lost power. And you have your Khrushchev, your Stalin, your Lenin, Trotsky, all them white boys in the Russian Revolution killed us off. And then Marxists came in and made them atheists. And here you got Putin. That's in a nutshell how we lost. Russia was our last stronghold. That's why you see a lot of icons left, because white men didn't get up there with the Renaissance, destroy and white them over. Russians kept it black, but they just didn't tell nobody. Now they're coming out with it. But white said, a lot of icons. And then when Constantinople fell, that was a place where that was the highest living place in Europe, Constantinople. It was called the city of God on earth, they called it. It was majestic. I got pictures of it. But then we lost it in 1453. Okay. And that's when the Ottoman Turk whites who were converted to Islam with Arab armies, 120,000, took over 8,000 defenders. And we held it down for 8 weeks, but, and I got a picture of them falling, all black. Okay. From Constantine the Great up until his last ancestor, Constantine Palaiologos. Black. I got a picture of him. Dude looked like what's his name? That light-skinned that cool talking actor. Talk real cool, but he's smart. I forget his name. But he looked like him. I got a picture of him. Constantine Palaiologos was the last emperor that fell in 1453. And that was the beginning of our fall. We didn't all fall at once. That's why now America is going to be one state at a time. First, take the head off. The whole Europe, because you couldn't just drop off 82nd Airborne in a day. You had to hear about it, then you had to move armies. But by that time, 8 weeks, the Arabs had taken it over with superior forces. The only one that tried to hold it down right next to Constantinople when it fell was Transylvania, Wallachia, and those places. And the Black Israelite, I got to say, Vlad Dracula was a Black Israelite. He was a cousin to Constantine and them princes. He was black. And he was holding it down. And he was converted to Christianity, coming out of, just following Moses' law and just being barbarian and just wild, like we wild now. He was converted to Christianity. So he was the buffer state for years that held back the Ottomans from going and making all Europe Islam. He stopped them. He was defeated, but by then the Ottomans just said, okay, we're just going to hold this. So they've been holding it down, over in Turkey, which is now Arabic. They call it Turkey, but at first it was called Istanbul. Then they call it Turkey because they from the Turkish mountains. Turkey means hill dwellers. But you see who's ruling them. You see some white ones, you see some brown ones. Those are the real Arabs that took us over. And so they call it Istanbul, which means city of Constantinople. That's what Istanbul means, an Arabic word. They also call it Turkey. And there's a largest church in the world there called the Church of Hagia Sophia. We built that. That was a Christian church built by Constantine's great grandson, Justinian. Got a picture of him, Afro, everybody black. And he built that in the 5th century. It was after Constantine had died. You know, he was in the 4th century, Justine's 5th century. And they built that, you know, it's like round bubbles and domes. That's the biggest church in the world. We built it. It used to be Christian. I got pictures of it with Sheila David in it, and beautiful. But now you see they took all that down, and now it's an Arabic mosque in the museum. You know, and you look at it now, it's still beautiful. But that was once Christian. That's where we had our Sabbaths, and it was a Christian kingdom. Then that spread to the French kings. They were converted by Constantine. Before that, the French kings and the German kings, they were two brothers who were the sons of the first king of France and Germany when it was one. It was called Gaul. Before that, they were the Galatians. You can look all of this up. I'm just laying it out. And then the father, like I said, look, man, when I die, I don't want y'all fighting each other. But they fought. And so instead of just, you know, killing each other, one son stayed north, became the Germans. The Germans were black. They just came from the Gauls, from the father, the rulership. Then the other brothers stayed south and became Franks. Frank means true people. Speaking frankly, we all use that. The Franks became France, you know. And one of the sons was called Paris. That's why you have a place called Paris after one of the sons. You see? So the Galatians became the Gauls. Gauls broke up, became France and Germany. Then he had another little crew, the cousin. He took over. He became the Austrian kings, Teutonic Knights. You know, little fiefdoms under that. You know, all black Israelites, Croatia, Poland, we ruled all of that. They were all black. Just whites were under us as population, and other blacks. They were the commoners, and that's how it was. Then brother put out there, Normandy. That was a Norman, the Northmen, blacks who would call themselves Vikings. They was just wild. They started conquering everybody, and they took over England and coast of France and Normandy, Portugal, and later on, they were converted by some monks that went up there and converted them. But they were still playing around with Thor. But Thor ain't nothing but Christ. Odin is Yahweh. Or I would say Odin is like Joseph and his wife. Yeah, Frigid would be Mary, and Thor was Christ. That's why he had power over the winds. You know, that's why they have the holy realm. That would be Jerusalem. Asgard would really be Jerusalem. You go into the breakdown, all other names for Christian, they mixed it with pagan, you know, stuff. Like right now, paganism. We was just like right now, we into this pagan. You can go on one block and ask a family, what are you? Oh, I'm Muslim. I'm Baptist. Oh, I'm a Buddha. I'm this. One family now. One of them is Israelite, you know. So Constantine had to deal with that. You know, he was in Constantine during his time. That's when the icons started. The white Jesus didn't start with Constantine. He wasn't with that. That didn't come to the Renaissance when the whites took over in the 1400s. You see all the white pictures in the 1400s. Even the picture of Constantine that they have, that statue they always show, that was done in the late 1300s. That wasn't done during his time. I got pictures of Constantine. You go to the Arch of Constantine in Rome, it was done in the 4th century when it was alive. And you look up on the top of it, you see Constantine and the people, all black. And he used to paint it. But you see them all afros, and Constantine is on the throne, black as he want to be. The Roman Empire to the Holy Roman Empire. And the brothers, when he sent the missionaries out, they already had knowledge of Moses and the Bible and Solomon, because they were all Israelites. That's why when Paul and them was teaching, the ones who were really listening, getting it, were Israelites, because the Bible was not, in everybody's house back then. You couldn't go online and read it. The only ones the Bible was new to was all the nations. They had their idols. But the Israelites
Right.
amongst the nations, they already knew about, because you brought up. See, they weren't just waking up like you and me when you're 20 and 30. They brought up like that. So when Paul was teaching were Israelites amongst the Gentiles who would click with the prophecies and know, oh yeah, I remember that story. Because you taught it, even though you're calling yourself a Galatian. Yeah, but I'm an Israelite. But that was like 1,000 years ago, man. I'm just doing this. But then, well, here's Christ, Old Testament. Here's Christ here. Here's Christ there. See, get our Second Ezra's 7, 28, 29. Ezra was the 5th century BC. He knew about Christ, and Paul was teaching that. So when they saw Christ and saw he's in the Old Testament, Christ is in Daniel, all the way through it about a savior. Because whenever Israelites were in captivity, they always wanted a savior like David or like Samson or a judge. They always prayed for that. So now, when Christ came, seed of David, this is a prophecy. Someone's going to come and finish it. So the brothers scattered abroad, they was eating up Paul's words and all the brothers who was scattered teaching them. Nations were like, well, what is that? They don't know, because their history isn't Hebrew history. They wasn't at the synagogue every Saturday. Israelites were. And when they got scattered and Paul went to teach them, there was no New Testament when Paul was teaching either. It was being written as they walked and talked. There wasn't no Matthew, St. John. They didn't have all that we can go to this verse in scripture. They was teaching the Old Testament. Everybody back then was an Old Testament brother. It's just that they were building the Messiah, the Christ is coming, and writing those writings that later Constantine put together. Okay? So everybody in the past was Old Testament, but they believed in the Messiah. See? And the Messiahs they knew about it from the Old Testament. Christ is not new. He was always, he been prophesied since Adam. But 2 Ezra 7, 28, 29 to show you Ezra knew about Christ. You can get this in the Hebrew, it'll say, Yahushua Mashiach. Who is that? He came 400 years later. Ezra was 400 BC. BC when we came out of captivity and built the second temple. Ezra's writing about Christ right here. Because the angel still dealt with us then. And if you forgot, the angel came and reminded you about Christ. Angel came to Daniel and reminded him about Christ, the Son of the Most High. The Son of God, Daniel speaks about the Son of God in the 5th century BC. And now you read about the New Testament. Ain't nothing new. Okay, so 2 Ezra 7, 28, 29.
This is Second Ezra, chapter 7, and verse 29. After these years shall my son Christ die, and all men that have life.
That's good. So who was that? This is 5th century BC, before Christ was even born. So we were looking for this prophecy when Christ came. There were many people like Christ, like it is today. They think there's somebody. Some of them are doing a couple tricks, but they were looking for the ones that fulfilled the scriptures. Christ is the only Messiah that fulfilled the scriptures to the T.
God,
The coming of
that's
Christ.
right.
Okay,
That's right.
so that's
right.
That's what we would look for. There was no New Testament, so they was looking for. If you spoke about you were Christ, did you fulfill that? You fulfill this? Is that you? Oh, you're going to die? And it tells you right there, Christ fulfilled that one. Go to Daniel 7:23, another prophecy of Christ. This all goes with why Constantine converted, because he already knew about a Messiah. He just was so much, Romanized. People didn't care. Like today, they don't care, or they think he's white. We didn't have that problem with the white Jesus back then. They knew it was black. You see?
God.
that white came on the scene with a little bit of Greeks and the Maccabees. You see the Maccabees, they tried to do it then, but that was just that little time and that moment. They didn't publish that all over the world. But then later on, they really popped out with the white Jesus when we lost Rome in Constantinople. A lot of brothers who was in Rome, there were all kind of art studios where they're making thousands of icons. These brothers fled to Russia. That's why Russia got so many icons. And they fled, some fled to other black power centers. They fled to King James. Okay, they fled to the French kings because that's where they were going. They were fleeing. The same we fled out in 70 AD and took our records with us and icons. We fled, we had time to flee from the fall of Constantinople and take them records with us. And that's why Russia got so much stuff. You know, and other small lands around there. And King James, they brought scrolls to him. But that's way across the West. They didn't get it till later. That's why King James knew these whites taking over. We lost Constantinople, 1453. That was the first fall. And then 1492, we lost Spain, the fall of the Moors. Okay, 1492. Columbus was a general over the last armies that pushed out the brothers, Christians and Islamic brothers were living together because they knew they were brothers. They pushed him out in that last battle. Then we lost France in 1783, the French Revolution. They killed off the last ruler, Marie Antoinette, and Louis XVI. Why is he Louis XVI? Because he's the 16th king going back to the time of the Gauls and back to the first king, Charlemagne. Okay, Charles Martel. That's where you get Hennessy from. The Arm and Hammer, that was his symbol because he used to beat people up with a hammer, you know. And out of Charlemagne, yeah, and Charles Martel came the French kings all the way, all the way to so they kept it real. They were kings and they kept it son, son, son. That's why Christ, when you're reading, you know, from Solomon to Christ in Matthew's 1, you're reading the book of Kings. When you read from Adam to Noah, you're reading 10 patriarchs in Genesis 5. Methuselah, Lamech. You're reading a book of Kings. Okay? Yeah. Sons of God. They were all, that's why Christ's line goes back to Noah, back to Shem, back to Adam. You see? Because Adam was first king. It just wasn't called that. But we're reading the royal line of the sons of God. But get that Daniel 3, 23 or 24, 24, Daniel 3, 24.
Time.
What's that say?
This is the book of Daniel, chapter 3 and 24.
Mm-hmm.
Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished, and rose up in haste, and spake, and said unto his counselors, Did not we cast 3 men bound in the midst of the fire? They answered and said unto the king, True, O king.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
He answered and said, Lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire,
Exactly.
and
Mm-hmm.
they have no hurt. And the form of the 4th is like the Son of God.
Uh-oh.
Exactly.
So there you go. Now, does that son of God got something to do with Anunnaki? No. Anunnaki ain't that but cartoons of the ancient world. That's like somebody believing the Avengers 1,000 years from now was real history. That's all that is. And Anunnaki, all that crazy angels laying with women. Shoot, we women wicked now. How come demons ain't laying with them now making giants? Because it didn't happen back then. We were the sons
How
of
could it?
God. Yeah. Seth. You know, Seth
I was
was the
about
son
to
of
say
God.
something off.
So you see right then, how did Nebuchadnezzar, this is 5th century BC, I should say 586, Babylonians conquered Israel, took the best of them. Read Daniel 1, it says Daniel was a scientist and comely, the best of Israel. They took them into Babylon to work for their kingdom. Same way they took the best of us. you know, out of Spain and out of different places and brought us in America. Now America's best because the Jews are here. And Russia's dead because there ain't no Jews there. They got power, but they dead. Ain't got no spirit, you know. But
Mm.
how did
Wow.
Nebuchadnezzar know? How did Nebuchadnezzar know that fourth man? How did he know what the Son of God looked like? And he wasn't even born yet.
Right.
500 years before he's born,
Right.
that man looked like the Son of God. Okay, I mean that looked like Jesus Christ. Okay, right there. And then Ezra says Jesus Christ
Right.
right there. He shall die. Why is he? The angel had to tell him that. Also, they knew a history of a Messiah that was going to come. So that's that Son of God right there. See, right? And they knew. Even the Gentiles knew. I guess they learned from us, but he knew what the Son of God looked like. Through the fire now. He had that woolly hair, looking like when John the Revelator saw him in 90 AD. Daniel saw that same image that John saw, the image we all use of Christ. Daniel saw the same thing in Daniel 10, 5 and 6. Let's get that. He saw Christ. Same way Nebuchadnezzar, an Ethiopian Babylonian king, knew Son of God. You see? Right there. Everything linked up. And the angels always kept Israel in the know. You can see Uriel, Raphael always coming, dropping this. Gabriel dropped that. It's just that right now they do it invisible. You don't see them. But Moses had to bring us way down so we come all the way up. Then we're going to start seeing these brothers for real because they are brothers. Tells you that in the scriptures. But what's that say? Daniel 10, 5 and 6.
Khan, this is the book of Daniel, chapter 10, verse 5. Then I lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a certain man clothed in linen, whose
Mm-hmm.
loins were girded with fine gold of Ubas.
Stop right there. Gold, Euphaz back then is one of the names for the most finest, purest gold. And he had a golden girdle around his loins, meaning his waist. Same way Christ had the golden girdle in Revelations. He's seeing his loins was about his paps. He had a golden girdle. Christ loved golden girdles. You're seeing that. That's 5th century. From the heavenly world, he's seeing Christ. Go ahead.
Khan. His body also, like the bird.
So his
The
body was
serpent.
beryl, meaning the garment he had on that covered his body was beryl, which means a light green. That's what beryl is, a light green. So when John saw him, he had a white garment on. But that one, you know, he light green, because light green is one of the colors, is the major color of the tribe of Judah. You see, emerald is green, and it's the color of Judah. When you read, I think it's Exodus 28, and you read Revelation to give you each tribe and their stone, their birthstone. The fourth stone is Judah, and their stone is emerald. And it was Judah. Another thing, I'm coming right up to the history. Judah became the kings of Ireland. That's why they call Ireland the Emerald Isle. And Ireland's color is green, because those were Judah kings that became the Irish and the Scots. They were brothers. They just broke up. I'm gonna rule Scotland, you were Ireland. They was all brothers though, all related. Okay, but that's where that going to Ireland, their color was green because that was Judah, and a little bit of Dan, little specks of Benjamin here. I could show you history on that because we was all hanging with each other. Just that the kings were mainly Judah, some Benjamin, and all the priests was Levites. You see, became the monks and the popes. Up until the white popes came, all them popes was Levi, because we was keeping it real with Aaron and the high priest. We was trying to keep it real because we was going by the Bible. The Constantine put one force, and that's what the brothers wrote the Vulgate from in the Bishop's Bible. And then Constantine, when you read King James, he wouldn't have nothing to work with if Constantine didn't do what he did. Because it says, you read in the flap of the King James Version, it says, King James Version 1611, taken from the Hebrew and Greek sources, right? Now, does that mean Greek? I got to get this last one for you because then I got to go take care of some business with my pops and do something. But second, first Maccabees, 12, 19 to 23. This goes right into when you read the front of your Bible will say from the Hebrew and Greek. What that means is when the Bible was when the Greeks conquered us, the white Macedonian Greeks, that's where the end Macedonian, Ptolemy, who took over and Seleucid, they got 72 men to go down to Alexandria, Egypt, and they translated the Bible from Hebrew to Greek. It's called the Septuagint or the LXX. So that's when you see it says Hebrew and Greek. The Greek is not white folks changing it. It's 72 men, which Septuagint means that translated from Hebrew to Greek. You see at that time. Because Israelites were speaking three main languages at that time: Greek, Latin, and Hebrew. The main, and that was back then. Now we speak three main languages: French, English, and Spanish. Same thing. This is New Rome. So back then, that's why it says Hebrew, meaning the ancient scrolls. That's where King James got it, because that's where Constantine got it. And they didn't change. They didn't write nothing. The men did. He just protected them, gave them money, had them go out there and build all these beautiful cathedrals. Okay. It didn't get dirty and nasty and all that until the white man took over. That's when they speak about Europeans, or that was when the white folks took over. When we was running it, we wasn't building those majestic buildings, but we couldn't take baths. Nasty. Look at how we dressed and how the English nobles dress. You know, we was high level, man.
That's right.
You know, the whites came in and you seen where they live. And so then whites say, oh, these were nasty. That was the dark ages. No, the dark ages when dark folks was ruling.
That's right.
High level. The white man was the one in the dark. Okay. Well, you can look up the dark. Right. Yeah. Medieval, Middle Ages, Dark Age, Byzantine times. All that's from the 5th century to the 15th century. That's 1,000 years. And that's prophesied in Revelations 20, that we would put the devil down for 1,000 years. Then he'll raise up later like he's doing now and take us over. That was a prophecy. It's a 2-part prophecy because that was 1,000 years from Constantine up until the fall of Constantinople. And then it was we took us out later with the plagues and the wars. And then we finally fell, where, you don't see us running nothing. And the white man just took over everywhere where we had died and been, put in slavery. But what's that say? First Maccabees 12, 19. Let's read that.
Sure.
Just little historical points. But if you're taking notes, it'll all come together. Just read them. And then get you a good history book that gives you the history timeline. Get a history timeline book. You can start to see the timeline. Get different ones because some will tell you more than others. But the history timeline, they be having it on point. It's just that we think it's all white people. You got to know you got to know when it went from black to white. Like 1491.
God.
That's right. When we know when to go to black to white, and you can read history just like singing a song, hitting notes. Like we know 1491, all America was black Indians and black people. 1492, white folks came in, and then it started to be white.
Right.
So every king before 1491 was black.
That part.
Now you look around in America, you thinking white men been there forever, and all the leaders and the names was all white folks. You wouldn't know that white folks wasn't running nothing. They weren't even here. And they just started to come in 1492 with Columbus. You see? We got to know when France was black up until Louis XVI. in the French Revolution, and that's when
Oh man, I love it.
they killed off the black French and beheaded Louis XVI and his beautiful black wife Marie Antoinette, and that's when
Oh my God!
yeah,
Wow.
guillotine her, cut her head off with guillotine. You see, and that's when France became white in 1763, black to white, right there. But they
Wow.
won't tell you. They think it's just white folks killing white folks. No, it's just killing us off. But
Right.
Yeah,
Wow.
right, right.
In my
Germany,
Salakia, y'all. In my Jesse Lee Peterson coon ass voice, amazing. Salakia.
in
This is
Germany,
amazing knowledge, y'all.
yeah.
God.
Napoleon killed off the rest of us. Napoleon was killing off the last black families. Poland, Austria, and all them little places around France, Germany. Napoleon was killing all of them off, them last families. He tell you, don't shoot till you see the whites of their eyes. Because there's black folks and there's fighting at night. He was saying that for a reason.
Wow.
He was killing off the last ones, that white boy right there. And then, so, let's read that second Ezra's, First Maccabees 12, 19, and 23. This is showing you that the black Greeks were black Israelites first, brothers to the Israelites. And then we lost it to the Macedonian Greeks. When you read First Maccabees, the first chapter, you see Alexander and then his 4 generals. That's when they had taken us over. And that's what Daniel's speaking about, the white Greeks, but not the black ones who were the real Spartans. Spartans should have been all
Right.
black. That was all us, man. You read about it. I got a book, and this you get the book, and it shows you black Spartans combing their hair. They got picks, lips, everything. And they was fighting. Who you think fight better than us? Those brothers were the top fighting crew.
Man, come on, man. Hey, say that, Elder God. God.
Yeah.
That's right.
Sparta, yeah, Lacedaemon. No, let's read it. Let's read it. I keep talking. Let's read it.
Khan, this is First Maccabees, chapter 12 and 19.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the copy of the letters which Anieras sent.
Mm-hmm.
Arius, king of the uh, Lacedaemonians, to Annas,
Lacedaemonians.
Lacedaemonians, to
Yeah.
Amos the high priest, greeting. It is found in writing that the Lacedaemonians and the Jews are brethren, and that they are of the stock of Abraham.
There you go. They were Israelites, and I got pictures of them. Lacedaemon was one of the founders, and that was the original name of Greece. It was called Lacedaemonia. His wife's name was Sparta. Okay, and then Lacedaemon, when you trace his lineage, it goes back to the kings of Greece. When you check out the movie Troy, you're reading Black history. Black Danites fighting Black Judah. Lacedaemon traces roots back to the Herculaneum and the Hercules, which is a play on Samson. Okay, and then it plays back to the Danans and to the tribe of Dan. That's who the Black Greeks originally were, because they were in that area. It was tribe of Dan that became those Greek kings and the Spartans, because the Danites had a navy, and they used to go to Greece back and forth. Then finally they took over as the Dorians. The Dorics took over the Mysians, who were Javan, because we all know Javan is the ancient name of Greece, one of the sons of Japhet, right?
Khan.
Yeah. Well, let's read that. So you see, I'm saying it, Ezekiel 27, 17, start there. 27, Ezekiel 27 and 17. You're going to see that the tribe of Dan were the founders of the Greek kings. When you're watching the movie Troy, you're watching those Greek kings, Menelaus, and Agamemnon, his brother Menelaus, and those Greek kings like what's his name, Chiles. Them was all Israelites of Dan. They were called Dorians, the Doric Empire. And they went into calling themselves the Atrians and the Achaean Greeks. Then they were fighting Trojans, and that was across the water where Judah kings were leading. And you go into the Judah kings, his two sons, Paris and Hector, the king was Priam. He traced his roots back to Dara, which is one of the sons of Judah. That's written in history. The Trojan kings traced their roots back to Dara, one of the sons of Judah. But read that Ezekiel 27:17.
God, this is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 27 and verse 17. Judah and the land of Israel, they were merchants. They traded in thy market wheat of Minnith and of Panag, and honey, and oil, and balm.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, down to 18:19.
Damascus was thy merchant in the multitude of the wares of thy making, for the multitude of all riches, in wine of Helbon, and white wool. Dan also and Javan going to and fro occupied in thy fairs.
See,
Bright iron.
that's it. So I'm showing you Dan, his main land was along the coast. Their city was Joppa. It was inland, right along the Mediterranean. They used to go to and fro. They was, doing trade, bringing it back to Jerusalem and Solomon. Because Dan was here during Solomon's time. All the 12 tribes was just ruling like the white man ruling America. Just had the trade going on. Then they had tariffs too, just like this fool is doing. And they had to enforce them. So Dan was the maritime power of Solomon. You can read that chapter and go into Solomon's son. Dan was the one that was running because Dan stayed in ships. They lived in ships. Dan became the pirates and all them people. You see? And all the Blackbeard and Bluebeard, those were Danites. Some Judah too, Benjamin, but this is specifically showing Dan was the main one in the ships going to where Javan, I mean, they were going to Greece. Okay, and you read history, Dan was the Dorians under the leader Doris, and then they conquered the Mysians. The Mysians were Japhet, or they were Javan. They conquered them later. You see, and then they took over the land and set up Athens, and then they all, when you go into the Spartans, they all acknowledge their leader as Lacedaemon, and they named the land Lacedaemon, and they named the chief city after Lacedaemon's wife, a black woman named Sparta. You can look that up. Then other cities came out of that: Argos, Athenian, Thebes. When you're watching 300, you're watching Black history.
That
Sparta.
part.
God.
You could buy a book,
whitewash.
whitewash like crazy. So that's what they did
God.
right there. So you had later on going back up into from the 10th, 11th century up into the 1272 AD at the final Battle of Acre. That's when the Black Israelite knights, because they had set up knights who were actually warrior priests. They were priests, they were doctors, expert warriors, and they were knights. The Knights Hospital, the Templar Knights, the Knights of Malta. There was black folks first. White folks just came in and twisted it up into these secret societies. But they were the ones that were on your way to Jerusalem. They would have hospitals and stores for you to stop, inns to sleep in, and they protect you and take you on, especially if you're royalty, and they take you on your way to Jerusalem. People pilgrimage, they were along the way. That's where the Knights Hospital, because they were hospitable. And then they had the Knights Templar, because they was more near the temple area, watching the temple area. Knights Templar, Temple Knights. Malta Knights were on the island. They were the maritime power that if you need a ship, go there with them brothers. They were protecting. Then you had the Teutonic Knights. Teuton means tribal knights. They was all protecting, but then the Arabs came in, beat them up. So we had to call all the brothers, the kings, stop fighting each other. King Richard the Lionhearted, he was the ancestor of King James. He went on down there. You know, and you see all these French kings, they were all put down their differences because their one thing was that they were Israelites and Jews. Okay, and they had to get the Holy Land back. And they got it back and they lost it, they got it back, and finally all them knights were dying. So Most High was breaking us down little by little, setting it up for the white man to roll in. So from 1094, when the Levite Pope Urban called for a crusade, a crusade up the cross, and he mentioned Constantine. We got to do it again. Let's get our land, Jerusalem back. And so they went on down there. It was waves of them now, you know, that went down. And then thing is, they weren't organized the whole time, because a lot of time they conquered and stayed for a couple of months and went on back home. And Arabs came in and just conquered again. So the Most High is breaking down. A lot of them brothers lost their lives, and that was 1272. Then here come the 1300s. So you're going to these kingdoms where the king is gone or he's dead. The knights are dead from all this internal fight. The 300-year war, the 100-year war, you know, the Battle of the Roses, that was us fighting us. One brother, his symbol was a white rose. The other one had the other rose, that's Crips and Bloods. Killed each other down in like 70 years. You know, you read about that story, Romeo and Juliet. It was black. That was all her family, white rose, his family, red rose, but they wouldn't get together. That was
Nothing,
blacks
nothing
fighting
new
black.
under the sun, huh? Nothing new under the sun, huh?
Yeah, that's black history, man. But that's all
God.
because of the fall of Adam. We still got that sin that pops up in us. We had to learn the depths of sin and slavery, so that when we come to the height of freedom and salvation, we ain't never going to want to come back to this. See, it could have been easy. Adam is the one that, like, okay, now I got to go the hard way. But every time we fall, it's not one day. It's the Lord sending the prophets. He's warning us. He has mercy. He says this, and we keep doing it. It's always over time. It ain't no one day. Same when you do with your children. If you got some, or you remember it being done, first your mom says no. Then he might scream at you. Next time you do it, you might get put in your room. That don't work. Gonna come upside that ass. You know, what's I gonna come at you? I mean, your mom ain't gonna hit you or your daddy. So when we fell, that wasn't just we sinned and next day Most High got mad and killed us. It was over time, and we just wasn't. And mainly our kings, puffed up. Look at the white man, all this time to love us, and he doing worse than his fathers ever did. So it's time for him to go. He didn't have enough time to love us, to clean the earth up. He doing worse. Trump is stepping up the evil.
Right.
Okay. He's an antichrist, man. He don't care about Christ.
That's right. That's right.
He's an antichrist. So we're in the end days, okay? Because Trump is bringing it, man. He knows his time is short. So they're coming down with great wrath, and that just don't mean bombs dropping. That means political, social, everything is going to get wrath. He's coming hard on the Mexicans first. But really, Mexico is just a working word. Really, he wants all the tribes south of the border out, because he don't want them linking up with Judah, Benjamin, Levi up here. So he's just dividing. Pretty soon, that's all going to convert, because he's saying, and it's all wicked the way he's saying. All Mexicans are drug dealers, M18, and this. So now you mean if we get all the Mexicans out, that's going to stop crime in America? No. Nope. Why don't he get those crime families out, send them back to Sicily and Italy? Right. You know, they're criminals. Just round up all the Italians, then go to the 100 KKK bases they know are there. They got the map. Send them back to Europe. Right. Them is criminals. Okay, but you know, he's going to step it up like that. I heard him say it. Right now it's Mexicans. Like, that's the problem with America. But now it's going to be any criminals, whether you're American or not. You getting out of here, or you going in someplace and you're going to be, he's going to step it up from Mexicans, because really Mexicans means everybody down there, Brazilian, Haitian, West Indian, Guatemala, Panama. It means everybody that look like Mexicans. It's gonna flow to that. You watch. It's got to go there. Elder. Yeah.
Salaki Elder, can I get a precept real quick?
Yeah, get
Yahweh
that.
Sahib. Yeah, Yahweh Sahib, give me Joel chapter 20, verse 10. Baba Kishar.
Con.
I mean, excuse me, 20 and 11. 11 and 12, actually.
Con. This is the book of Job, chapter 20, starting with 11.
Yep.
His bones are full of sin of his youth, which shall lie down with him in the dust. Though wickedness be sweet in his mouth, though he hide it under his tongue.
So, like the elder was just saying, like he's worse now. Like Trump, I mean, it was wicked, but this is just going to that. Like they on some whole new level type stuff now. You know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah,
all I
they
want.
went for it. So I'm gonna get two more scriptures in Revelations to kind of close up this 1,000-year time that we were when Europe was ruled by us, and we had it locked down. Started with Constantine in the 5th century. The Bible became the law of the land, and then into not all Europe fell, but in 1453, it's like Washington falling. America's still running, but they took out Washington. So Europe is still running, but they took out Constantinople and Turkey, and that shook everybody up. And then after that, we lost France and Germany and all them different lands, Spain over time. In the same century, 1492 we lost Spain. 1453 we lost Constantinople, our Christian capital. That was a capital right there. That shook people. That was like Jerusalem falling again. When you read the history on it, that shook people up. These were black people. They burnt a whole lot of stuff, but during the time of the siege, a lot of brothers got out of there and fled to Russia and fled different parts of Europe with our artifacts and Bibles. That's why we still got what we got. But they took a lot of stuff. But Revelations 13:7. Then we're gonna go to 21-3, and then that'll be it right there, because that's like the end game. Revelations 13:7.
This is the book of Revelations, chapter 13 and 7. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given over all kindreds and tongues and nations.
So this is when black Israelites, we lost in Europe, we lost in America. The same way we lost Europe is how we lost America. Internal warfare, sinning. Then the whites came and picked us off tribe by tribe. We was fighting. No, he wasn't, winning. But then here comes the plagues, killed off whole Indian towns. Okay, and the smallpox blankets, that's killed off, and then the whites just cleaned up the rest of the smaller tribes, and here we are. So Europe's the same way. You go through America, it's like Indians were never here. You don't see them up in New Hampshire and Vermont. That was all Penobscot and Muskegon in their lands. You all that's really known as white land. Before it was tribal lands up there. They just took us down the same way in Europe. Back day, when you thought of a French people, you think of somebody black. Now, French, you think of white people. German, the Germans were black, but now you think, oh, they're just white folks. So our whole history is wiped out. So they made war with the saints. You can read Psalm 148:14. The saints are Israelites. If someone want to get stupid, you don't get you don't get ordained a saint by the Pope. All Israelites are born saints. It's that we got wicked ones and righteous ones. Okay, and we don't all act saintly, but we are saints. Okay, so that's they made war with them, and then now the whole world is under Trump and all these leaders. They running the world now, everything. We're in that time right now. They had to take us down and take our place in history. And notice they left all the other nations' histories pretty much black, but they had to change Israel, God, and history to white. But they left Muhammad black. They left some Africans black. Other religions, he leaves them brown, but he had to take everything about us, because that's Esau hating Jacob. He knows he's a firstborn, and his mother calls Jacob to take his birthright. So now this is his chance. I'm taking my birthright back. All this Jacob should have been mine. So I'm Christ, I'm this, I'm that. He really has a deep hatred, man. But then the Most High knew he was going to do it. And the Most High showing Esau why he took it, because he knew Esau was going to mess it up. Okay, that's why he took. It's the Lord that took Esau's birthright, not Jacob or his mother. He told her 2 nations are in your womb, and one shall be stronger than the other. So now we're in the end time, where the Most High saving the best for the last, and that's us. Let Esau run it in the ground. He got this. Let him run it in the ground. He's already doing it. Most High gonna make a new heaven and a new earth when Esau shows us why the Most High hates him and why he loves Jacob. We're in that time now. He just had to lay it out, because that's the only way you learn. You can't learn ABCs in a week. It takes practice and learning and words. And now look at us. We good at ABCs and all the letters and writing. So it starts from, Lord had to lay out all the history and all the scenarios, so we get an in-depth study of the heavenly world and the world of hell. Okay, so Revelation 20, 1-3, this is the 1,000-year history, and then I'm gonna stop it there.
I'm gonna make something. I'm gonna make sure. I'll get
Constantine to Constantinople.
Jeremiah, can you mute your mic right at the shop?
Jeremiah, you gotta move your mic up.
Yeah, somebody talking in the background. Revelations 20-3.
God, this is the book of Revelation, chapter 20:1. And I saw another angel came down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and chain in his hand. And he laid a hold on the dragon, the old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. Verse 3, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon it, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed a little season.
So now we're in the time. This is going back. This is a good one to end on. This is one of the ones I was taught back then. And they got this in history books, but they kind of say a little bit, but they know this was a time from Constantine till Constantinople's fall. That was the height of Christian Black Israelite rule. And we ruled the whole world practically. 10 tribes over here. We was all over the place. But when
we was running triple honey iced tea.
Yeah. So when Christ came and gave Constantine that victory, that's that right there. Put the chain on him and put him in a pit. A pit means a trap. I mean, we stuck him in Europe. We stuck him and put them in, took Rome down and took it down. It wasn't. You don't start with Septimius Severus because it wasn't Christian. He was still wicked. You got to start with Constantine. You know, he was just Crips and Bloods running stuff. Constantine was like if me and you began to rule, we're gonna bring the Bible. The hell with everything else. You know, we ain't gonna be perfect, but we gonna rule it by Israelites. And to all the brothers, we got to get in the Lord of the Bible and let's stop bickering. That's what Constantine says. Put that Black Israelite Constantine and his rulers took down all the whites and put them in captivity. The main pit is Caucasus, but he was all over Europe, put in the Netherlands, just put low. It didn't run nothing. But then, after the 1,000 years was up, now he's loose for a little season. This is it. We're in a little season now. Okay? So this is what we're into now. This is almost finished. Okay, right now.
Yeah.
But that chain on him, you know, was on him for a while. We had this white man down, and he knows it. He hates us for taking it for interrupting his rule. Now this is Rome coming back. Yep. I tell you, this is new Rome right now. That's why all the cities look like little Roman cities, pillars and stuff. And he got that. because that's when you see these pillars and stuff in downtown. That's how Israel looked. They stole that style from Israel and from Egyptians and other nations that had the pillars and the white marble. Stole it from Greece. They stole it from us. And now, but then it became Rome. Just like everything that you do in America, they don't say an Israelite is the fastest runner. They say an American, all American. You know,
Mhm.
but it'd be a black man though. You know, when you
Right.
say Israelite American is the fastest runner, Israelite American is the best football player. No, this American.
That's right.
Back then, you was just Roman, not knowing that some of them Romans was black
Mm-hmm.
people, Chinese,
Mm-hmm.
Arabs doing stuff, but they were all Roman because if you brought up somewhere from birth, that's who you are. Even though
Mm-hmm.
a Chinese man brought up in Israel, he'd be an Israelite citizen, but not nationality. That's why you have this Gentile thing with Israel, where Israelites rule, nations wanted to, we're supposed to convert them. And some of them lived in Israel and brought up with us, and all they know is Hebrew, just like us. But they had their place because they were Gentiles, but they were citizens. And we kept them in their place. And they was happy. Same way America. People brought here all this time, they happy being here, and the white man running it, but they're Americans too. That's why you have this confusion with some of these people that are clearly Gentiles saying that their line goes back. I'm an Israelite too. See, Most High got to work all that out. I didn't see some Asian dude, white, I'm an Israelite. My father was an Israelite. Well, you might be a citizen, one of them servants, but you're not the line for my study of the ancient ones, you know, because the only real Americans was white folks from their father or one of their founders, Amerigo Vespucci. He was a white boy. So only real Americans is one related to him. The rest of us is coming here is just citizens or were the conquered, because Israelites were already here, you know. So this was our land. So everybody need to leave except the blacks and Indians, because our brothers were here first. We don't know that belong. Everybody else is squatting.
God, man. God, man. Start the
You know?
deportation.
Yep. Wait till your house starts deporting. He gonna put
Right. That's
everybody.
right. That's right. That's
Mhm.
right. That's right.
Everybody gonna go back to their own land, and everybody gonna know who they are. They're gonna be this confusion. Because there's brothers, you gotta think there's brothers out here that don't even know their fathers. They adopted. Who would they be? See, the Most High got to bring all that in confusion. The Most High knows everybody's lineage. You know, some brothers coming in and you see their spirit. I'm just an Israelite. They couldn't tell you what tribe they are because they were adopted. So we always have to have a comfortable answer for those types of brothers that's coming in, because they may be Israelites. And if they coming in and they feeling it and you see they locking on, then you got to try it by the spirit then. Then let the wheat and the tares grow together until the Most High fix it up. He'll know. He'll know his tribe
That's right.
when the
God.
time
That's
comes. But
right.
just you're a child of the Lord, you're a Hebrew. You look it, but you don't know who your father and mother is. So we flow
Mhm.
with brothers who come in, and you see how the Most High keeps it in order. But you see all the camps, you see mostly Indians, Mexicans, a couple Negroes, West Indians, Haitians. See, the Most High's bringing in who's who. You don't see no white folks coming in. You might see one or two, but very seldom, because you might have a white guy with a black father. Probably be an Israelite, but you don't see them rolling up. The Most High is putting Judah first. Okay, that's why you see Black Americans are the ones that's waking up, and all the tribes are coming out of the islands to America, to what Judah built and what Judah died for and got lynched for. Even all the nations come to what Judah built, because we had to go through the lynching and calm the white man down so the nations could come here. They couldn't even come here during the slavery because, shoot, East Indian come here, they'll shoot him like an Indian. African come here, they'll lynch him. Judah's the one that cooled them out, you know. So now they can all come to what Judah built. The inventions that we made, this whole world is on an advanced level now because of with all the inventions, great and small, that Judah built in America. And all the tribes is coming here too. So the Lord is laying this out. He's orchestrating this right here. All we gotta do is just follow orders, keep the faith, deal with the brothers right where you at. It don't have to be a big thing. You're trying to rule the world and be the, some kind of Messiah. Brothers is doing that now. They're getting too puffed up. There were 7 churches of Asia Minor. It wasn't just one. Okay, there's all kind of churches, and if they were all the 7 churches of Asia Minor had an angel over each one. Now they had their problems, so that's why I don't get. You got to come through my church to be saved. You got to come through my church, man. Get out of here, bro. Come on, man. We all one body. Christ is the head. Teaching the same thing, but these brothers got this. Certain brothers got this. My school, your school, man. No, forget that, man. No time for that.
Right.
No time for that. And Most High gonna squish it. All these churches that we got and schools are going to be divided because Christ is going to put everybody in one church. And you're going to be, and if he makes more churches, the Most High going to put him where he wants them at. Okay, he knows his men. Okay, well, we better get ready to be dispatched and deployed where we got to be when Christ comes. Okay, this is warfare, bro. But the war starts with us, inside of us. We got to get ourselves right, people around us, our families, whatever we doing. So any man that warreth as a soldier do not entangle himself with the affairs of this world. So you got a lesson now. You know we got to deal with it. Go pay your rent, but just try to make time. Like right now, we're making time to learn this word. I'm learning too. Because I'm going over stuff that I ain't talked about in a while. Now it's like, okay, it's all coming back. So we all just getting it. But this is a lot y'all got. And it all makes sense after you read and over time. But you got a nice outline to start from. And when you start filling in the gaps and the Holy Spirit move you and you go, it's all going to fit. It's just like a puzzle. It looks crazy, but once you start fitting the pieces, you start seeing the picture. Just start fitting the pieces. There's just all kind of stuff happening in between that, but you got the gist. You got Solomon, 1000 BC, the scatting, and we came all these names fighting each other. Then we got taken down. White man took over. The Bible came in play. Now the white man took over, and he playing our part. And then Most High going to take him down, and we're going to rule again and get back to how it was with Solomon. It's just that we can rule the whole planet this time. And we're never going to fall again. This is it. Christ is it. There ain't going to be no fall. So that's the history in a nutshell. Just starting from Solomon's time, up until today. We don't want to go. We don't want to go. We already know what happened behind that. The Judges, Exodus, but it's just coming up to this AD time. Like what happened with all? Yeah, what happened with all of that time after Christ? What happened to the disciples? This is what we got to fill in that gap. 1,000 years later, what happened? We know we're in 2025, but what happened 1,000 years ago? See, now we're putting that together and seeing when it went from black to white, from Israelite to Edomite, Okay, my brother. So I'm
Israelite.
We really appreciate you stopping by and giving us the history. Because personally, I did not know a lot of this. Now I knew that, for example, the transatlantic slave trade. I was taught that a lot of Native Americans went back to Spain and Portugal, but the rest of that stuff that you was talking about, like Napoleon and Marie Antoinette and stuff like that. That was with the exception of the night when we was talking, but this is new information for a lot of people. And all praise to the Most High for gracing us with your presence.
Okay, we start looking. Sometimes I'm gonna show you something. Sometimes I'll be looking through the internet. I go on Pinecrest. I get some old book. You start looking. bam, you see a black icon. Black. I got a picture of Louis the 16th, and he's black. I ain't got it on me now, but oh man, the front of the book is all white. You go near the back, and it's sitting right there. Like, man, I got to get that book out of storage one day. But y'all stop looking through some of these old books and old stores. I bet you'll run across a lot of these kings were black because the white man, he hides stuff in books because he knows he ain't going to read them. So
Right.
yeah, so
Right.
that's so his scholars can keep track. Because the Most High did not allow him to destroy all the truth. So the Most High told this man to leave some. But if we hear another 100 years, we're finished. Christ will come
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
We're finished,
The scripture
man.
says he's
We're not
going to
going to
shorten the
win.
time, shorten the
Yeah.
days for the elect's
On
sake.
a certain day, there'll be no flesh left to save. This man is killing us on every level, and they about
Yep,
to just go out. That's why they made that movie Purge. Purge is
yep,
about a
yep.
day where we just kill anybody, and it's not going to stop in the end. They're going to kill until they finish.
Right.
Okay,
That's right.
that's what Purge is about. Let's give a
Yep.
green
Yep.
light and just let everybody kill everybody. The first one they're going to be killing is Mexicans, Negroes, all of us.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yep.
going to be war, and it ain't going to stop, and everybody go back to work till next year. It's going to stop when it's over. The
Right.
Purge is like a joke, but it's for real. Why would you make a movie like that unless you're putting out that vibration
Yeah,
that
because the
you
white man,
really
the devil, the Bible speaks of.
he's the devil? Okay, my brother. Most I bless
Kind.
y'all. Next time, if you got
Yeah.
write down, I know you got a lot of questions. That could be another class, but write them down. Then we can kind of see what the spirit show you, and bring out those questions,
God.
or just whatever. Like, I might be wrong. Bring it out. Let's clear this up, because the whites
God.
know their history. They know who they were selling. They know it better than us, but not better than Christ.
Right.
And maybe the ones 300 years ago knew it better because they were the one lying. But these whites today, they don't know nothing about this, man. Only the
God.
elite
Right.
may have it, like the Vatican, and they
Mm-hmm.
got their libraries. They know this, but most of these whites are stupid as hell. They stupid as us, because they really believe the lie now. They believe Christ is white and Israelites are white, but the elites know what I just broke down. These elites know.
God.
Mm-hmm.
They know what happened, and that's why right now they said, "Look, man, these prophecies are coming to pass. We got to either kill off everybody. They want the war. They
Yep.
want a limited nuclear exchange to kill down the world." This is out of their words, to manageable numbers, and they want to hide underground and come back in 2 years and rule the
That's
white world.
crazy.
That's their plan. They call it the Noah effect. Kill everybody down, start over again. And he wants to kill
Uh-huh.
everybody down, especially us, and start a white world. That's why I got movies like Mad Max, The Day After.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
You
Yep.
know,
Yep. Yep.
notice ain't most blacks in there. Ain't no Indians. Where the Puerto Ricans? What happened to them?
Uh-huh.
That was cool.
Yep.
Even I mean,
Yep.
even when he go to space, he'll never find a planet with just Mexicans ruling or Negroes ruling. It's always whites with pointy ears and whites who are blue and planets.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they always the
All racist.
superheroes, they the superheroes, they everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They the ones to come save the day. They come
Hmm.
save the planet. You know what I'm saying? For real.
The
Oh
Federation
no.
of Planets, and all the planets, and the only black ones are the Klingons, and they monsters. But then everybody else, oh, we're going to get the Federation of Planets and get it together, and all these white aliens over with. Everybody white. No, it's all going to be brown. You
God,
know,
God,
Right.
God.
heaven.
But
That's why
but
Christ said heaven. Yeah.
but go ahead. But go ahead. But before we leave, I just want to give a recap. You know what I'm saying? Of what we talking about. You know what I'm saying? Before we end it off. You know what I'm saying? This is the history that we don't hear about. You know what I'm saying? Do you understand this, Israel? For the people that's out here that took the time out, you know what I'm saying, to listen to this, and the people that's going to listen to this in the future, this is the history that we do not hear about. That our history is way deeper than just slavery. No, we
Right.
know that they tell us we was just some savage beasts running
Yeah.
around in the jungle. You know what I'm saying? For real. And
Mm-hmm.
they just came and grabbed us. You know what I'm saying? That is
Right.
so far from the truth, man. You know what I'm saying? We come from royalty, man. We are a royal bloodline. We are the children of Israel. You know what I'm saying? We are the 12 tribes of Israel. We are God's chosen people above all people, man.
That's
Hey,
right.
Baba Kashad, though, saying, let me get Deuteronomy 7 and verse 6, and then we're gonna end it out, man. Because this is who we are, man.
Okay, my
Let me get that
brothers,
real quick.
I'm gonna leave it there.
Yeah, I
I gotta go
appreciate you,
do
Elder Karaj.
this thing, but always honor your elders. My elders, who I didn't get it from one of them. Yeshaya, Ariah, Kazak, all them brothers gave me pieces of this. They had
Con,
this,
Uh-huh.
that chunk. I honor them. Some of them are fallen soldiers, but we still give them honor when
That's
uh,
honor
right.
when
to
when
those
they was
brothers.
in the
Yeah,
spirit.
Khan, yeah,
Okay,
Khan.
we still respect it. And the original 1970 to 1995 IGPK, man, this is where this come from. So I got to tell you, in the Holy Spirit of Christ, but I used to go to class every day for about a year. That's all I did. It was open 7 days a week. I don't know a lot of
Khan.
brothers doing that now. When West open 7 days a week, from 7 to 10 at night, Saturday all day, brother went to camp, and Sunday was a Hebrew in the herbal school. They taught you how to take care of yourself. All of that.
Mm. All
So we
praise.
have to honor them because that was a university, man. And I didn't know all this until really after year 2000. I had time now. I was by myself, and I went to Ohio, went here, and just lay it all out. And now y'all got some keys, and you got it now. And now watch the Holy Spirit gonna show you and prove it to you. You're gonna see it,
That's
right
right.
now, because the
That's
door
right.
is open now. The spirits are gonna take you further as you research in scriptures. Probably a book you got on your shelf right now. You're gonna look at it and find an icon you never looked at before. I'm telling you, that's a lot of stuff I found by mistake. In the book I got right here, I didn't even know it until I knew what to look at. And then
Khan.
parts you know how to read. You never read it, but now you read it. Like go on your index of your book and contents and look up Hebrew words like Hebrew, Jew, Shemitic. Sometimes you go to that page and you'll find a jewel in there. you know, Negroes are Shemitic. Oh, let me put that out. So we got to know. Look for Jewish. Look for just Hebrew, Zion. There might be a little piece of gold information in there that'll just open you up and not justify, but edify the Bible. Just be little pieces. Sometimes be a whole chapter. So when we get these
Khan.
books, try to read all of them, but go to the index and just read everything Hebrew you can find. And sometimes there's some good information that got to come out in that chapter, that precept in that book that you would never think of buying. And then go to the British section of the library, go to the European section. There's a lot of Black history in there that's right in there waiting for us to go dig. It's buried just
Khan.
like we are. So we got to dig it up. If someone told you there's a diamond as big as your head in that mountain, wouldn't you buy that mountain?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
God,
Because you
yeah,
know it's there. Now you go
right
sit there
Right.
digging for months. What's he digging? It's a mountain. You don't even know. There's a diamond there. Someone you're gonna get paid as soon as you can dig through that mountain. The Spirit showed you there's a diamond big as your head. You get there. So this is like a diamond. We got to dig for it, and it's gonna
God.
come. We're gonna get the
Hallelujah.
diamond, and we all gonna be rich. So praise you. How about Shimmy Al Shai? And Most I bless all y'all, man. And we'll talk later.
Yep.
Khan,
God,
man.
How about coming
God,
outside?
God.
Shalom, Elder.
Shalom.
The
Shalom,
water,
shalom.
brothers, the water.
All
The water,
right. Thank you.
once again, you know what I'm saying, the water, you know what I'm saying, once again, you know what I'm saying, the elder just left, man, but that was a wonderful lesson from the elder, you know what I'm saying, um, like he was just, man, brilliantly explaining, you know what I'm saying, um, and I don't even know how to come after that, but the fact that, you know what I'm saying, I hope everybody tuned in and listen and learn that we came from this. I said it before, you know what I'm saying, for real. And we gonna, you know what I'm saying, like I said before, we gonna end it with Deuteronomy 7 and 6 and we up out of here. Let me get Deuteronomy 7 and 6, man. Because
God,
because this is who we are. Go ahead, bring that out.
this is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7 and verse 6. For thou art an holy people unto Yahweh thy power.
Uh-huh.
Yahweh thy power has chosen thee to be a special people unto himself
Uh-huh.
above all people that are upon the face of the earth.
Kind with kind. And with that being said, my name is Jeremiah Bun Yahawada. You know what I'm saying? I'm with my brothers. You know what I'm saying? Yaqua Bun Yahawada and Yasap Bun Issachar. And we are the D.O.C, the Department of Corrections, man. This is Code Media where we cutting up lies with the truth. Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom.